Sorry, I just had to get the other one.
Welcome to the Willington School Building Committee meeting. It is January 15th, 2026. We're calling the meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. Welcome to everyone. I'd like to thank our panel here for volunteering your time and your talents. I really appreciate it. I'm sure other people in the community do as well. People in town are very passionate about this school project, and we also feel the pressure to get it right. So thank you all for being willing to do that. I'm sure it's much appreciated. We're going to go ahead and round the table. Everyone will have an opportunity to introduce themselves. You can tell a little bit about your experience, maybe how you most benefit the group. Would you like to start?
Adam Salonis, I'd say I've lived in Willington since '09. And worked for over 20 years in corporate engineering. A lot of capital projects, facility relocation. This is in manufacturing.
Peter Bacon, I've been here since 2007. Very involved in the town. I coach in different areas for the town, for regional areas. I'm on a CIP as well. I also have a carpentry background and lawn care, landscaping background.
While still allowing sustainable fishing opportunities.
I am also involved in scouting as well, and something is talking out loud. Well,
my name is Liliana Borelli, and I've been a resident of Willington since 2023. I am an oncology nurse for the past 30 years. I'm currently working at Johnson Memorial as I do utilization review, utilization management, and case management. I was the president of the board of a 750 unit community, housing community for 5 years. I also served on a community board aide in Queens, New York. And I'm here because I want the best for our community, and I want it to be done right, transparent, and what's best for the whole community, not just a few.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Hi, everybody. James Marshall. I have a child in each of the two schools we have now. Professionally, I'm an architect. For the last 10 or 15 years, my focus has been on K-12 school design as well as municipal project design. I currently serve as chair with Pete and Jeremy over there on the capital improvement program committee here in town, but I also served had a stint on the board of finance as well as the very tail end of the prior school building. I came in very late to the game, but I got to be a part of the very end process of that situation. So I come prepared and well versed in history and way things function here in Willington.
Thanks. My name is Brianna Ross. I'm the current chair of the Board of Education. Serving tonight as temporary chair of this committee for just a couple more agenda items, and then someone else taking over. I grew up here in Willington. Actually, this is my hometown. Both of my girls were raised here. My husband was a Willington resident his whole life pretty much as well. So I love this town. I've also been a teacher for 25 years. So I spend a lot of time in schools. And I did serve in the last school building committee as well. And I'm really looking forward to careful work and getting things right and thinking about what's best for everyone here in Willington.
My name is Jeremy Brothers. I've been a resident since 2013, 12 or 13. I worked as a general contractor for somebody for 30 years. And 3 years ago, I started my own business as a general contractor, mostly in commercial construction, new municipalities and hospital construction.
My name is Ann Grosjean, and I've been in Willington since 1978. I've actually had two generations of family go to school in Willington. I have my two daughters who went pre-K through 8. And now we have 3 grandchildren that live with us that are, one's at Center, one's at home, and one's at EO. So we kind of see the whole big picture. I also taught for 35 years and have served for 12 years on the Board of Ed. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having a wonderful product for our town.
I'm Mike McCoo, currently the first selectman for the town of Willington, which automatically makes me an ex officio member of this committee, translation non-voting. I have lived in Willington since 1969, which some people I associate with still think makes me a youngster in town. And I've been involved with the fire department since I was a teenager. I've been in code compliance, career-wise, for about 20 years now. I'm a certified fire marshal and building official. And I did chair the previous SBC for part of its time. I was on it as a member or chair throughout the evolution of the previous SBC. I also spent 5 years at UConn in construction project management on capital projects from maybe a couple $100,000 minor renovations up through $70 million utility upgrades and $200 million science buildings. And I'm here not only to bring that experience, but also any of the resources that would maybe be coming from the selectman's office or other parts of the town to help coordinate that.
Good evening, Phil Stevens, Superintendent of Schools. I'm in my 8th year as superintendent, and just looking forward to get some project off the ground, whatever that is.
Awesome. Thank you all very much.
You
Sounds
have a
like.
couple online.
Oh, yes, wonderful.
Yeah, Adam Brewer.
Oh, good. I was wondering.
Good evening, all. Sorry, I'm not in person, just beating the flu here. 25 years in the construction industry, working for one of the largest general contractors in the nation. I do have a young daughter that goes to school in town here. I've been a resident since 2016. Very excited to be a part of this team and bring any of my expertise to the table that I can, as well as to help out with all the taxpayers in town and making sure that everybody's aware of what we can do, what's best for the people, and also what we can do for best for our buildings in town and our facilities for not only our students, but for our faculty too. So very excited to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Hi, everyone. Lisa, Eaton. It's good to see you all. And if I haven't met you, it's good to meet you. And sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I am a university professor, and I have a strong background in human development and education and statistics, and also quite a bit of project management experience as well, and project planning, and a lot of work in budgeting. And I have been here for, I believe, about 12 years now. I have 2 children who go to Willington Public Schools, and I have been involved kind of on the periphery of various, not directly with the SBC, with prior committees, but just involved in kind of trying to move things forward. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to be on this committee with you all. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Since this is our very first meeting, there aren't any at this time, but we'll take care of that the next meeting. Agenda item 4 is present to speak. Public participation is very much desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to topics on the agenda, limited in time to maintain progress, and must maintain decorum. If you're interested in sharing, you can raise your hand in person or online, and we'd love to hear from you all. Mr. Bullock, can we start with you?
Yes, my name is Jim Bullock, 12 Laurel Drive. I am been a former first selectman former selectman in town of Willington, former chair of the Board of Finance, former member of the CIP committee. I just want to thank everybody for volunteering for this important work for our town here. I also want to remind everybody that Willington needs an affordable solution for our town. There are a lot of people on fixed income. There's a lot of people that are Willington has a high poverty rate comparatively to other towns around us. And I just implore you that whatever solution you develop, that you develop one that's affordable to the residents of Willington. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bullock. That's great. Thanks. Anyone else in the room or online? Okay. Oh.
Oh, sorry. It's Steph Summers, Wide Road. I do want to thank everyone in advance for what they're committing to here. And to keeping in mind, that this is a limited, heavy deadline situation. And I'm hoping that, I think it's a circumstance that we will not see again. And I hope you make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Wiltintich, 97 Grass Road, former member of the Board of Education, Planning and Zoning, Board of Finance, and CIP. I wanted to thank everyone on the committee for this important task. I served on the 2 previous school building committees and know many of you. And I want to strongly urge the committee. We hear a lot of discussion about cost and how that was a major variable in the last overwhelming defeat of this school project, the last referendum 3 years ago. I submit to you that a much greater issue was the lack of public trust. And the fact that the entire process was dominated by special interests, public officials, and very little input accepted or considered from the townspeople that were asking about the project. And because of the huge opportunity that we have and the significantly greater reimbursement, I really hope that this committee will act objectively and come up with the best project to present to the town. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. I see someone online. Mrs. Mafu?
Hi, Jen McCoo, Clover Springs Drive. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's serving on this committee, and volunteers are challenging to find on a good day. So I appreciate the effort to fill the committee in a bipartisan way. I sincerely hope that now we can put politics aside and identify the thing that is best for the students, for the faculty, and for the townsfolk who are going to be footing the bill. This is a unique and amazing opportunity, and I hope that everyone can work together on this committee to move it forward with the speed that it needs to be moved. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah.
Hi, Ralph Tillis, Village Hill Road. Obviously, the previous speakers have been on a number of points that are essential to what this committee is going to be responsible for. And I want to thank everyone who did volunteer for this. I was on the previous school building committee, and it's not an easy task. I think we need to be very conscious of what will pass referendum. And the bottom line there is that the total cost to the taxpayer is essential, not just the school project. How is this going to impact our total budget? How is it going to affect the mill rate moving forward to manage the debt service associated with this? Now, that said, a couple of recommendations that I would make. Now, I speak as a resident. I'm not speaking as a selectman. This is a Board of Selectmen committee. This is not a committee formed by the school, by the Board of Ed. So therefore, you should be responsive to all the taxpayers. One thing I think would work to your advantage, any and all consultants that you engage should report directly to the committee. And any exchange of information should be through the committee. Not outside, not with other people, but should be directly through the committee. The committee can then reach out to the assets that they have to work with, Mr. Stevens, Mr. McCoo, and whatever other board you're going to have to go before. I think that's about it. I wish you well. I wish you luck. And perseverance, because you've got a very short time frame and a lot of things to cover. So that's it for now.
Thank you. Mr. Lawler?
Bruce Lawler, 48 River Road, Willington. I'm a present member of the Board of Finance and a past chair of the Board of Finance. Anything I have to say tonight is on my own behalf. I'm not speaking as a member of the Board of Finance. Of the utmost importance for the school building committee should be transparency. Transparency of not just this committee, but of the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen as well. For the formation of this committee, the Board of Selectmen decided to dispense with transparency. A year ago, there were various options on the table. Refurbish both buildings, knock down hall and build a new building, incorporate both schools into one building, and find a new site for the schools. The Board of Education paid for the study with taxpayer money, but the Board of Selectmen sent only one choice for consideration to a town meeting in December. This was the most efficient way for the Board of Selectmen to remove all choices from the table except for what the Board of Education wanted, which was a new school. I can tell you that based on my experience on the Board of Finance, that what the Board of Education wants, the Board of Education gets, regardless of how much of a drain it is on our community. Standardized test scores rivaling urban schools, 20% participation rate by students in special aid programs, and a student body that loses roughly 20 or more students each year, which leads to shrinking class sizes. At one time, our schools had around 680 students, and this year they will likely have less than 370 at the beginning of the school year. All this in the Board of Education gets more money each year. Only in government does poor performance and declining participation get rewarded with more taxpayer money. We've been here before. 6 years ago, taxpayers turned down a new school building. It was turned down due to excessive costs and because of a backroom deal that was made regarding the site selection. At the December town meeting for selectmen, Mike McCoo claimed that we would get 95% reimbursement from the state for a new school. If I remember correctly, the base reimbursement rate is more like 80%. The only way the town can reach 95% is if it were to expand the services the schools presently provide. Special ed program would need to be expanded, and there would need to be a daycare program for children from birth to 5 years old. If you consider going for a maximum reimbursement rate of 95%, you should have the facts in hand in regards to how much these expanded programs will cost on an annual basis and through the entire bonding period and beyond. Another matter for consideration should be not just the building, but what the mission of those buildings might be. In closing, as members of the school building committee, we're serving the taxpayers of the town of Willington. If you are not serving the Board of Education or the Board of Selectmen, don't allow yourselves to be rushed into making a decision, but make one taxpayers will find to be acceptable. Take your time and consider all options that are available and think about the price our town will pay by accepting state money. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and thank you for serving as well.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. We have Mr. Clark on the line.
Yes, thank you. I echo some of the comments that have been made by various folks so far. Thank you for volunteering. It is going to be a long process and hopefully a successful one. My advice would be not to repeat the failures of the last building committee. We need to listen better and we need to communicate better. I remember going to all those meetings and it was disheartening. But listening better means listening honestly and not listening through filters or your preconceived notions and filters of what you already want. Also, you need to communicate better, and that means communicating directly. It doesn't mean on Facebook. It doesn't mean on, we do minutes. Communicate directly with people. I would urge direct mail at various times during your committee work. That's the only way you can actually get out to everyone. I echo Ralph's comment, also Ralph Toulis's comment. We have many priorities in town. This project is one, and we can't let this project crowd out other priorities as well. And I would also echo Ralph's comment that consultants should report directly to the committee and not through Phil Stevens, superintendent of schools. Phil has enough to do rather than, other than interfacing with consultants and things like that. So those are my suggestions. Good luck, everyone. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Thank you. All right, last call for present to speak. So great to start off with so many people participating, isn't it? Nice to know. Okay, next we're gonna hear from First Selectman Mike McCoo, who's gonna give us our first official kickoff and let us know what's been going on and where we are and where we're going.
All right, thank you, and thank you again to everyone, for volunteering. To put your name up for the committee. We had other volunteers who didn't get selected, so a thank you to them also. What's happened up till now, the members here know some of it because they went through some of the process, during the previous administration before I was elected. There was, and it really since the ending of the previous school building committee, there's been a lot of discussion about some of the things that didn't go right or could have been done better. And lessons learned, which was why when the emails went out to all of you with the information to get started, there was encouragement and the links to look at the closure report from the previous committee. Because it was a very honest representation, and you've heard a lot of things talked about in the present to speak tonight about things that didn't go as well as they should have been, gone, or whatever, a lot of lessons learned. Part of that was, some of those things have been resolved, some have not, they'll be the challenge for this committee. Some of the things that were resolved was it was very difficult and we struggled a lot through that process to put a number on it. As was talked about in present to speak, it's important for the people in town to understand what the impact will be on their taxes. Because of the way the state's formulas worked at that time, it left us with all these if this then that situations. And it meant a range of tax impact. That made things a lot worse. And fortunately, that is a different situation now. A lot of that has been cleaned up. You're allowed to know your reimbursement rate on many of the steps previous to the application or the referendum. You're also in a situation now where we have special legislation that is good through the next essentially year and a half. It's good until June 30th of 2027, which brings our reimbursement rate up. It brings it up depending on what factors you put in. A little bit was alluded to during present to speak. It's like 89 point something at one point, if depending on what qualifies for the preschool programs, you get up to 93.33. It's not actually 95. But then there are other potential things we may be able to add later to go even higher, but that, again, all of this will get discussed throughout the course of this committee. And some of those, unfortunately, we still don't know until it's application time, but we do know the 80 something. And we know the 93.33 or whatever it is. We know how those will apply. So you'll be able to discuss and debate that as you go through the process. Part of how that happened was a lot of communication from people in town and the former SBC and people concerned about the tax impact, communicating with our legislators. Jeff Gordon and Tammy Nuccio were both very effective in listening to our concerns and bringing things forward at state government level to try to resolve some of that. That's how we ended up with special legislation that we have a year and a half to take advantage of. If the project goes forward, that's accepted by the taxpayers, then we can do that the next year and a half. What happens between now and this June 30th of 2026 is critical because as of July 1, 2026, the state is changing a separate part of the calculation, not the reimbursement rate, but they're changing the dollar amount that is allowed per square foot of construction. And they're lowering, which of course in this day of escalation is, cost per square foot is going up. They're pulling back on the cost per square foot allowable. So even though for a year after that point, we would retain the high reimbursement rate, we would only be able to use a lower per square foot calculation. So the value of the high reimbursement rate all of a sudden comes sliding back. Where the numbers would end up, we'd have to do the math at the right time. So that's why there's so much energy around the idea of what can we do between now and June 30th. And so that is a lot of what has happened coming up to today. Again, thank you to Jeff Gordon and Tammy Nuccio, because they brought together something, working with the previous Board of Selectmen, brought something forward that crosses all party lines, is purely about what's good for Willington. I have sometimes every couple of days, I have conversations with Tammy Nuccio, about any number of things for Willington in her job as our rep, and she always talks about the school project. She has no intention of telling Willington we need to build a school. She has every intention of putting us in the best possible place we can be if we decide, not we the committee, we the people of the town decide to go forward with the project. So what that really does is puts a lot of pressure on this committee to move as quickly as possible to get a project that the committee feels is right for the town to a point where we could leverage this best case scenario, which is probably a once in a lifetime reimbursement situation. We have, based on the model that Tammy had endorsed for a previous school project in Tolland, she suggested to Willington, again, previous to this administration, that the committee be comprised in a certain manner, bipartisan committee, selection committee for the members, and the public works foreman, because of some expertise in building and construction. And for reasons that I'm not aware of, because I wasn't in office in the fall, that didn't happen. Applications were taken, and then for whatever reason, nothing happened. The transition happened. I became first selectman. We have a new board. Two of the three of us are new to the board, and we got moving on the process that put all of you at the table and some of you on Zoom tonight. We followed the same process that Tammy had suggested, and we used the same interview panel that had been created in the previous administration. So I didn't want to make any change on that because that process was established and understood. I want to respect that process. And that brought us to this group, and brings us kind of here tonight. If anyone on the committee has not yet reviewed the previous SBC closure report, please do that. It will really help understand, and it will agree with a lot of the concerns you've heard in present to speak. And anyone out in the public who wants to read the closure report, all of the school building committee documents from the previous and for this committee are online. If you go to the town's webpage, you can go to school building committee. You click on that page. On the left side, there's a tab for previous school building committee and a tab for current school building committee. And so you have access. That takes you to the specific web pages that are within the public schools website. So it'll navigate you right there. All of the documents are available and on the website. So that kind of takes us through what happened to get us here. Then the only other thing really is sort of the public process to this point, which was the town's enactment of this committee. It's required by the state that the town enact, and just to correct, this is not a Board of Selectmen committee. This committee does not report to the Board of Selectmen. This committee was appointed by the Board of Selectmen because we are the appropriate body per the state legislation to do the appointments. But this does not report to the Board of Selectmen. This committee is not beholden to the Board of Selectmen. It's only beholden to the people. At the meeting where the committee was created, the town meeting where the taxpayers endorsed having a committee, the language to a previous comment did seem to narrow it to one option. That is not legally true. It was explained at that meeting. It was not true. And it was again reviewed with Tammy Nuccio after that meeting to be sure that was not true. Language does not limit us to one option. It kind of looks like it does, unfortunately, but that is the language the state gave us But everyone is clarified. We are not stuck. We are not narrowed down to only one option. It's the job of this committee to navigate that process. And then, so we talked about reviewing the closure report, the charge review. All of you have the charge. The charge is on the website. It's available to the public. And it's really in two parts. The first part is guidance. The second part is specifically the tasks of this committee. And that charge was developed from looking at many other school building committee charges, looking at our previous charge, taking some lessons learned from our previous charge. And then review at course selectman level and was approved by the Board of Selectmen on December 15th. If there are any questions on the charge from the committee, feel free to ask right now. So we're clear on it. Anything? No, okay. We can always come back to that too. And then I think that's everything, right? Those are items A, B, and C on the. Okay, so then I just have, okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, agenda item 6 is new business. We're gonna start with an election for the permanent chair. Nominations will be made. The candidate must accept or decline the nomination. People can nominate themselves. Discussion will be held for each candidate. After initial nominations, I will ask 3 more times for final nominations to be made. And we will require a majority vote to pass. So we can open the floor for nominations for chairperson of the school board.
Madam Chair, I would just like to clarify, I was contacted by one member of this committee who asked to have their name considered. And so from a procedural point of view, since that person contacted the first selectman's office, I would, if they review, I will make that nomination because I got that contact. I'd like to nominate Jim Marshall to be considered for chairman of the committee.
Thank you. Do you accept?
I do.
Thank you. Other nominations?
Just I got a clarification. So being a new committee, not knowing faces, it's kind of hard to elect a chair when we don't know really what. How do you elect a chair when you don't know somebody? I know certain people, but how do you elect a chair? I don't know, Adam. I'm just sorry, Adam, I'm just putting you out there. You're in the middle of the screen. I mean, I don't know, right? So how do you, I mean, if he wanted to run, how would we get to know that he would be a fitting chair for the committee?
I hear your concern. I get it.
I agree. I think we need time. I think we should listen to the who's gonna be nominated. And also, I have a concern. You're also the chairman of the CIP committee, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're gonna be chairman of both CIP and, no, I'm not saying you're gonna get voted, but I'm just saying that that seems a little bit of a conflict of interest.
All right, so let's.
Gotta close nominations.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just point out a technicality? We have to have a chair.
tonight, does it have to be
The
tonight?
committee has to have a chairperson. It
Yes,
has
I
to.
understand that, but it doesn't have to be tonight. We should have the opportunity to talk
Right.
amongst.
I'm just saying there has to be a chair. That's all.
I know that,
Right,
that
and
makes sense,
Brianna's a temp chair until we vote a
Yep.
chair.
right?
So there's technically a chair.
I'm not sure Brianna was planning on staying chair past this meeting, but.
She would be.
I understand,
But I
but
think we need to think about it and we need to discuss it more and we need to have the opportunity to listen to everybody else who may want to nominate somebody else.
If I may, I'd like to find out if anybody else is considering it for starters. And, you know, I'd love the opportunity to at least speak my piece and, you know.
Yeah,
say
so
why I feel about it.
let's complete
But
I hear you.
Yep.
I'm not in charge of this whole thing, certainly.
Yeah.
Let's complete nomination.
He wants to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What are the responsibilities and duties of the chairman and vice chairman?
Do you want to speak to that?
So, technically, the chair has some limited responsibilities, and other people can offer ideas on this too, but most commonly, the chair has a responsibility to run the meeting. Typically, the chair pulls together the agenda on the time between one meeting and the next meeting. Which may come from suggestions from other members or whatever. So it's managing the agenda, it's managing the meeting itself as it goes. And the chair is automatically sort of empowered to, or responsible for communication from the committee and stuff. So like in the previous SBC, they created a communication subcommittee, and then that subcommittee took over responsibilities for communication. But in the typical arrangement in Robert's rules, the chair manages the agenda, runs the meeting, is responsible for communications, and is delegated. Right, I mean, that's kind of the general.
Would they be in collaboration with the superintendent, yourself, and the project manager, out of meetings, behind the scenes,
That can-
helping to
No.
make the.
That can happen in sort of a,
No.
yes.
Okay.
That can happen in a sense that it is either understood or endorsed by the committee. It also can happen if it's for academic sort of, I don't mean school academic, but technically academic reasons. Because they cannot do committee work, cannot make decisions
Right,
for the
exactly.
committee and things like that. But the chair might be in communication with the consultant, if that's how it's decided, might be in communication with the consultant and the superintendent because some piece of information is needed from the schools or whatever. The chair, there is some activity that happens outside, but the chair should report that back at the meetings.
Exactly.
But it isn't conducting business or making decisions.
No,
It's
I understand.
conducting business in a very limited way.
More planning for a meeting, so it can be presented to the committee, so the committee can.
Right. Receiving emails in between, things like that. Gathering information. Right. Yeah.
Can I just add that I think I think in particular with this committee where it's going to be a lot of work in a short amount of time. It's not so much that I would be interested in necessarily getting to know everyone's position on things at this point, because we don't have all the information to have multiple positions on things. I'd be curious to know who is actually willing to take on the commitment of being a chair, and then maybe just hearing a few things from those individuals. I'm assuming that not all of us are willing to take on the commitment of being chair.
I agree. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. The vice chair, is there?
The vice chair essentially would get work perhaps delegated, the same kind of work might get delegated or might take the place of the chair. Like if the chair says, I'm gonna be out of town next week, you need to run the meeting. But with the amount of work that probably needs to happen between now and the end of June, the vice chair and maybe every single member of the committee may have work delegated to them in between meetings. And as long as that's done properly, things can happen in between meetings, as long as they're understood and they're reported on in the meeting or directed from the meeting. There might be every single member of the committee doing work.
So might I suggest that you all continue with your nominations and have people accept or decline, give folks an opportunity to speak on their behalf. Then you have information at least to mull over before your next meeting. And you are gonna need somebody temporarily for your next meeting.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, sure.
Is there anybody on the committee right now that's interested in being a chairperson?
We need a nomination for.
I'm asking if if there's anybody that's interested, before we can make a nomination,
Oh, okay.
right? That's what she's kind of saying, Lisa.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I
right now too, yeah.
I'm not saying nominate themselves, I'm just saying, yeah, I'd like to be considered. And then we'll listen to what they have to say, and then we can decide if maybe that's the person we want to.
Okay. Sure. If that's fine with you.
So is there any, well, can you,
Are there any other nominations for chair? which means you're interested, so you can nominate yourself or someone else.
Adam? Would you be interested?
Me? Or that?
Well, that's true, right? Adam,
If you're asking.
Adam, yeah. I don't think he's listening.
1 out of 9.
Would you be interested?
No.
Which Adam are we speaking to? Me or the other one in the room?
Yes.
I think I think James would sit best for this position, in my opinion. I don't think it's something I'd look to do, maybe a vice chair, but I think like I said, my nomination would be for James for the chair.
So Liliana has nominated Adam Brewer. Adam has declined. That's where we stand now. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll have another opportunity for some more nominations if necessary. In the meantime, let's open discussion, which involves anything anyone wanted to say about our candidate, or if our candidate wanted to share some information. So at this time also.
Yeah, and I'd love the opportunity to speak and at least tell you guys a little bit about myself and how I see the position. As I mentioned earlier, I do serve as chair of the CIP committee. I have prior experience with the earlier school building committee and also on the board of finance. I do consider myself well positioned to step into this role immediately, more or less as the facilitator for this committee to really expedite the work plan as efficiently as possible, because time is going to drive many of the decisions that we have here from now until referendum. As I mentioned, I'm an architect. I deal with this type of construction and these type of projects in my professional life. And I do have a good working knowledge of how to implement the needs of serving as chair, the administrative aspect of serving as chair. And through my role of CIP, regarding the role of CIP, I see that quite frankly as a significant advantage. And largely because CIP for many years has had to have an understanding and negotiate all of the many varied needs that this community has from a capital perspective. And it does so usually with the need to be very conscientious of budget. And it brings the knowledge to this role, and I think to this board generally, as to how the work we do will need to fit into a very tight fiscal picture. To speak a little bit to you and to your comment earlier, I mean, this committee as a whole, we're going to have to work collaboratively. This first and foremost, I think, is going to be a working committee. It is a working committee. It's a building committee. It's not a political committee. We are going to be it's going to take a collaborative effort by everybody on a task base, very collaborative working task base effort to hit critical milestones on this schedule. And again, I think my ability to hit the ground running without delay, because we are behind, in my personal opinion already, with where we need to be to get as expansive a data collection effort for this town as possible between now and really the beginning of May. Because we got to have time to get out to a referendum, town meeting, referendum, blackout period, and then time to file the grant application. So we are operating under a very tight window. And we really need to get as much of the administrative work, I think, out of the way this meeting as we can, so that when we come back and whenever our next meeting later on the agenda, we can really hit the ground running in developing a working number of solutions for this town as cost effectively as possible. So I also understand the commitment this is going to be. And and my family understands the commitment too, which is equally as important. So I appreciate them. Should I be?
I understand. And I thank you for your commitment to all those, to the committees, the Board of Finance, the CIP, and now this undertaking. But expediency at the expense of transparency and communication, I don't think that
Nobody's saying that.
we don't want to rush this. We want to make it right. So That's, I think, very important. So
I agree.
I expect communication. I expect to be, for the whole committee, to be kept on, appraised of anything that's going on. Because like you said, you're an ex officio, you don't get a vote, and neither do you, Phil Stevens, right?
Correct.
So the only time that we need to hear from Phil Stevens is if we need him, if we need his expertise on anything regarding education, correct? This is the school building committee.
Correct. Phil was a
Okay.
member of this committee. He's just a non-voting member. But yes, I agree. There needs
But
to be
that
separation between the Board of Ed.
Mr. McCool was the one that decided that he was gonna be member of this committee.
Let you speak to.
That's the formula from Representative Nuccio. Is that?
Yeah, the matter of having the superintendent on the committee or not it's very well held in standard in the process. The superintendent is on the committee. Some committees it's voting, some it's not. Understanding the concerns the community had last time and expressed before this committee, we all agreed the logical place was to have a full voting committee and then have the superintendent as a ad hoc member,
Okay.
which clarified it was not a voting position.
Okay, so
But
he
it is
just needs to
typical-
stay in his lane.
Right, but that sounds a little, that's.
worked with
Yeah.
Yeah, that
never worked with you.
It's okay.
I mean,
Okay, we can, we
I
can.
think Phil has
You're-
been a really valuable member of our building committee. I mean, I understand the concerns that sound to be, that were raised during present to speak about some information possibly directly going to Phil, but the enormous wealth of knowledge that Phil brings to the table is invaluable in this process. And when I first moved to town, one of my very first experiences with the school was getting information from Phil about the potential to renovate or build in the schools. I think that we would be reinventing the wheel a whole lot to make comments like stay in your lane to Phil. He brings a tremendous amount of knowledge that I think is going to be very valuable moving forward.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's get back on track and stick to our agenda because we need to elect a chair to this committee. So we can hear other discussion about our candidate, or I also will ask for any final nominations 3 more times. This is number 1.
Brianna, I'd like to comment.
Yes, sir.
When Jim contacted me, we had a discussion about the responsibility, his expertise. And because a lot of us in the room here have been here a while and been attending meetings for a while, has some history. Jim and I have sparred a couple times at meetings. And
With love, though.
what's that? With love, yes, never physically. All right. We have disagreed on some points and we've had some, slightly tense conversations in some meetings. And the conversation between us was that I had no question about the technical expertise. And that doesn't mean that other people here that I don't know as well, doesn't mean you don't have it. I'm just saying, knowing what I know about Jim. No question he had the technical expertise to meet the obligation to the townspeople. And no question that he would work hard on. But that I was concerned about how we had sparred in the past and we had lengthy conversations about the need to make sure this is focused on action. And the actions of what the committee needs to do to pull together something for the townspeople to evaluate, which goes to all the things talked about tonight. Affordability, communication, the technical aspects of the RFP, we should have had consultants already to meet the June deadline. We probably should have had consultants on board in November. So we had a lot of conversation about that and how we would both make sure that things did not become antagonistic, because that's not serving people. So I just wanted to address that fact because that was where we needed to kind of have a discussion. I have every faith that Jim will do a good job keeping us on track and doing things correctly and legitimately and in the interest of the people. And again, for other people, I don't, none of that says somebody else who I don't know doesn't have those capacities. I just am speaking to this nomination.
Thank you. Are there any other final nomination? Any other nominations for chairperson of the school building committee? Okay, at this time, nominations are closed. You are going to vote yay or nay for James Marshall to become the school building committee chairperson. I will say your name and please just return with yay or nay for this vote.
Excuse me, could I make a point of order?
Sure.
Has the nomination been seconded?
There has to be a nomination and then an acceptance or a
Alright,
decline.
so Mike made the original nomination. You're a non-voting member, so as a non-voting member, he's able to make nominations.
I believe so because it went through the selectmen's office.
I'll nominate, just get that, yeah.
I'll second the nomination.
Nominate James Marshall.
I'll nominate James Marshall. I thought I made it clear. I already did, but I nominate James Marshall. Thank you.
Just to clarify the technical aspect on that,
Understood.
Bruce, you may be correct.
Yeah.
But also, the audience can't make point of order. But we've resolved it.
You always have at my meetings.
I have, and I got admonished for it, and I got admonished for it, and I found out.
Many
Yeah.
times.
That's how I
Are you
learned.
fine being responsible for that?
Responsible for what?
Making the nomination.
Sure.
Okay,
I'll second that.
And Peter.
we don't need one, but yes, let's do that anyway. Okay, could you please clearly for the record state that again?
Yes, I will nominate Jim Marshall for the chairman of the SBC.
Thank you.
And I will second that nomination.
Thank
I
you.
will accept.
Do you accept? Are there any other nominations? Any final nominations? Any further discussion? Any other nominations? Okay, official nominations have been closed. Please answer yay or nay to whether or not you would like to elect James Marshall as the SBC chairperson going forward. I will begin. My vote is yes. Adam Brewer,
Yes.
Jeremy Brothers,
Yep.
Adam Salonis,
Yay.
Jim Marshall, Liliana Borelli,
Nay.
Anne Grosjean,
Yay.
and Lisa.
She's an alternate.
No,
No.
no, and. Okay, thank you. So that is 5 yay, 1 nay, and so you have a new chairperson. Sorry, sorry,
Jeremy?
He said,
I got him.
Oh.
Oh, it's me. 1, 2, 6. 6 yay, 1 nay. And all right, congratulations, chairperson Marshall. Are you prepared to take over the agenda at this time?
Yeah.
We are on agenda item 6, new business, letter B, meeting schedule.
Thank you, Brianna, for getting up here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sorry, it's a little bumpy.
If I may, before we move on to new business, but before we move on to the next item, I'd like to add, I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda consideration of vice chair. It's a special meeting, huh? Oh, good point. This is a special meeting. Thank you. Never mind. We will address that next meeting. Yes, I'm not sure we show up next week. Thank you, Ralph. Good catch. All right. Meeting schedule. So moving on, I have the item numbers here in front of me. Thank you. 6, cross it out. 6B meeting schedule. All right. So this meeting was originally scheduled for Monday, this past Monday, and we moved it due to a technical error. We need to decide as a group what works and fits well within the very booked meeting calendar of budget season and limited space available in this building to do so.
And I would make a recommendation not to do it at 5:30 in the afternoon. Because it is terrible to get here at that hour. I'm gonna be honest.
So
It would not normally,
I know, I get it, but.
Yeah.
So I would recommend Mondays on the off weeks, every other week, the second and fourth Mondays of the month, clear of the Board of Selectmen schedule. I think is possibly an ideal time. It also works for potential recording secretary opportunities that we have later on in the agenda. for being able to attend on behalf of this committee for a regular meeting. 7 o'clock seems to work okay. For many of the boards, it's down 6:30, 7 o'clock. But discussion, guys, what do you feel works for you? Our Mondays, let's start with Mondays. Our second and fourth Monday of the month is a regular meeting. Recurring meeting, okay for everybody?
Yes.
Works for me.
And keep in mind, we do have alternates, so while there are going to be a lot of meetings, we will do our best to make sure we have a quorum, and I think we have plenty of opportunity to do that. All right, so let's do that. Second and fourth Mondays of the month. I'm going to propose 7 o'clock. If that works for everybody, with a further discussion related to potentially doing something different by way of community interaction in advance of meetings.
Yes, that's important.
So one of the findings that came out of the last school building committee was that the present to speak one way format was really not effective in garnering community feedback. I'd like to open that up to have it be more of a community forum in advance of each meeting. Well, that's another discussion point. So I'd like to open up for a two-way communication, whether that be by a separate special meeting call ahead of each meeting, where we can treat it like the joint Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, CFP committee meeting that we had at the library at the start of this, when the grant reimbursement rate was entertained. I think that was effective in being able to respond to people's concerns and questions from the community. It also allows this committee an opportunity to kind of workshop with the community a little bit for some of the big picture items and concerns we may have along the way. My only hesitation is whether a 2-week turnaround, whether there's really going to be that much opportunity to develop the answers to have an effective dialogue with the community, or whether it should be every other meeting. So I pose that as a question. We can adjust start time accordingly.
I think this is a great idea, and it recognizes one of the really critical things that we came out of and was discussed tonight in Present to Speak is finding a more effective communication with the public. We thought some of our stuff was working. We also found some of our stuff was difficult, and the rigid format of Present to Speak, where you essentially just take comments and say thank you, is not always effective, and often leaves people who said something wanting some sort of response or an answer, and people needed Q&A. And so I think something on this line, I have talked to a few towns who have done sort of that public, it's not officially a public hearing because that has different legal meanings, but like a public hearing, where you have, like, for the first half an hour of the meeting, you have a Q&A session. So in this example, if the meeting started at 7, Q&A would be the first item on the agenda. You'd call the meeting to order, you'd start Q&A, and that would run up to a deadline of, say, 7:30. So there could be, and if Q&A ran out and there was no Q&A left at 7:20, then you could start the meeting. But it would be limited to end at a certain time to allow the committee to get to work. But then you have the opportunity for the committee to answer questions, take notes, maybe address something in the meeting that was brought up in the Q&A. And also then perhaps in the meeting, start the path to resolving one of those things that might be talked about the next 2 weeks later at the next meeting. So just a thought in this area.
Yeah, I know we do. Some committees take on allowing interaction at the specific agenda items, but we're going to have so much work that we really need to focus as a committee and make every meeting that we have kind of productive during our meeting time.
It's actually not recommended by the town attorneys or by the FOIA commission that you have open dialogue throughout the meetings. It creates a lot of problems with the sort of the legal aspects of what is committee work versus what is a public meeting. So it is probably better to have a true Q&A where everyone can interact and then have committee work.
I mean, how does everybody else besides everybody else, what are your thoughts?
I'll just throw out that I appreciate that idea, and I think Matt Clark has mentioned at a couple of meetings doing mailers, and I think doing mailers sooner than later could be wise, and we might even put in the mailer that these meetings have an opportunity for however we want to describe this two-way type communication to get as many people in the community involved as soon as we can with the project. That could be an idea for an initial mailer that goes out.
It's already on my anticipation, my wish list. I mean, and that may be argument if we have regular mailers before these workshops, that drives the community to our meetings to that ahead of time. That might be a little aggressive to do before every meeting.
Right, but at least one that went out sooner than later, letting people know that we have this opportunity for more back and forth discussion.
I think it's a great idea, and if a question does come up that we're not able to answer on the spot, we will get back to you with an answer. Whether it be probably for transparency best at the next meeting, so everybody hears the answer rather than responding to that person.
Or if we do have responses, we put them up on the website. Absolutely. Or do both.
Yeah, and a reminder that the community at all times does have the opportunity to send in written comment to the school building committee. And I think we can make a commitment as a committee to share that however we see fit, whether it's, I don't know if the attachments in meeting minutes, but I think we can host them where our committee documentation lives as correspondence so that all the comments are out there as well. So with that in mind, if we limit it, is 7 o'clock a good start time, or do we want to consider 6:30?
Either one works for me.
And then this way, if we need a little bit more time, we're starting a 5:30 meeting no later than.
Want to do it each week or every other?
But my preference is every other, just because I think there's going to be, this committee is going to need time to actually develop the answers to some of the questions, right? And sometimes a 2-week turnaround, particularly with meeting posting, it can get a little tight. But we could make it a more extensive workshop as well, or we can have a limited portion one and put a mailer out for a bigger, a bigger one every other. I think maybe we allocate an hour, see how it goes, but.
You have 9 meetings by the end of May on that schedule. And if you're at every other, you're really looking at 3 opportunities.
Yeah, I think we need to do at least every, initially, if, it becomes too much, then, or it's not productive, we can maybe change it.
We can always pivot, if 30 minutes isn't enough, we can adjust future meeting times to be a little earlier to give a little extra time, or we can try to limit it if we think we really need to get.
I think it's better to err on more public opportunity.
Yep.
Also, I think it's important that we start consistently at the same time, so people know what to expect this. When we talked a little bit about the 6:30 to do the public portion, I think we're probably best starting at that, whatever time we start at regularly, so.
Good.
Predictable.
7 o'clock work for everybody then?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 7 o'clock, second and fourth Monday of the month. And we will, of course, call special meetings for dedicated tests when we need to. We're gonna have a lot for solicitation reviews and stuff like that, just to keep the schedule moving. Backup dates and times. If needed for special meetings, or if there is a conflict with the selectmen's meeting, we're going to need to hold the meeting on a Monday. Is 5:30 really horrible in a pinch, or would you rather try for Tuesday? As a special call. Generally, if we can get
In a
out.
pinch, I guess, yeah. But
I think generally getting out ahead of the 7 o'clock meetings that everybody else has, if we can, like 5:30 kind of gives us that nice window to get an hour and a half for a dedicated task if we need a special meeting.
Yeah, 5:30 is pretty rough for me.
I'm not saying it's good for me either. I'm just trying to figure out how to work this.
But that would be a subgroup, or would that be?
That would be as needed, if we need to, if we can't accommodate it on our regular meeting schedule. I'm just trying to find opportunities so that I'm not sending out feelers every week, if we need to find the time. is there a backup date that works well for everybody? I guess that's what I'm
I
asking.
think we can also look at the schedule and see if there's opportunity to sort of overlap with some of the meetings. It's just tricky because we only have a couple rooms with the recording capability. So we're gonna have to be, but we have some meetings that are recurring on the schedule that get canceled each time because that committee doesn't need to meet.
That's true.
So I think we're just gonna have to be careful to be very interactive with the calendar as we go along. And then you might be able to get a free Wednesday night or a Thursday night.
Nobody beats on Friday.
Let's keep it that way.
Thursday's good for me too.
Thursdays.
Thursday is probably the challenging day because Board of Finance meets every week for the next 2 months.
Yeah,
That's big.
And the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee also meets on Thursdays every other day. So that would be a 5:30 event if we had to cram one in, but so I'll do what we need to do to send out feelers and gauge, in fact, on an as needed basis, I'll propose something. I think we have enough members with, alternates that we can make farm work for our needs when we need to. I'm gonna lobby for one additional thing, to the greatest extent possible. I hate hybrid meetings. I don't mind community hybrid, but, I find communication this is working well. Don't get me wrong, Adam and Lisa. It's not always as effective, I found. I would love for us to strive to be in person, the committee to be in person for these meetings. Just because it's easier to talk to somebody at the table than juggle back and forth. How do we feel? Does anybody have a big hardship? Obviously, we'll do what we need to do, but again, you have alternates and we can make it work if people have conflict.
Yeah, I have travel for my employer sometimes. And I will be going to the West Coast in probably February sometime.
So I'm not saying we exclude it, I'm just saying if we can make an effort to try as a committee to be here in person, I think that would be advantageous for what we're trying to get accomplished. Stealing your agenda again. All right. Any other comments or questions, concerns on meeting schedule? Going once, going twice.
What was the public comment time?
We're gonna start at 7. And then we'll start trying that half-hour period and we can adjust as needed for a
Okay, so 7 to 7:30 is public comment and then
meeting. So the meeting topics will begin and as of 7:30.
Jim, I would just, for a technical thing, I would encourage that you write the agenda that allows you to start the meeting earlier than 7:30 if public comment has ended. Like if there are no other comments left and it's 7:15.
Yep.
You don't want to sit there for 15 minutes waiting to start the meeting, because if you write the agenda saying it starts at 7:30, you're stuck with that. So you should write it that it's all part of the meeting.
Yep.
And just that public comment would be limited to an end time.
It would be agenda item 1, right?
Right. So it doesn't actually, it's not worded like the official meeting starts at 7:30. It's all
Good point.
flowing.
All right, moving on, recording secretary, item 6B. We have a wonderful recording secretary, on CIP, Lisa Pacuzzi. I think she also is recording secretary for Board of Finance and Board of. She does amazing work. Her minutes are very thorough. There's gonna be a lot of need for us in capturing the record for this appropriately related to any of the grant application work. So it is something, and quite frankly, it's way more effective having somebody take those notes during the meeting and capturing rather than one of the committee members trying to do it. She, in feeling her out, she is available on Mondays. It is a good day for her generally. And she would be willing to do it. So I recommend that we consider asking Lisa to be the committee's recording secretary for at least for the That's a question I have for you, Mike. Do we need a motion?
I was thinking through that and I don't know, some committees do, I don't know that you need it. Cause often when someone is no longer available, we just find somebody new and put them there.
Yeah.
It's not they're not a member of the committee to contribute to the conversation or to voting or anything, so they don't have to be like appointed. I think you can just, unless there's an objection, I think you move forward.
It's a paid position.
Oh, so you might have to have a motion to authorize. Right, okay.
I move that.
Well. Hold that thought, because we do have funding consideration on the agenda, so let's, that is a funding consideration, and let's talk about that all in one big group, I think, unless we need to. Let's make the motion under the funding aspect of it, but for now, I think if and without any, dissent. We'll anticipate Lisa being asked to be the recording secretary as we work out the funding consideration.
She in person?
She could be on Mondays, and if not, she does a good job.
Is she in person for the other committees?
Yes.
No, not for CIP, actually. She does most of our
Yes,
meetings
for
recording, so
fine,
she's
yeah.
great at it. So she can do either or, which is,
I just don't know if this committee cares. She does not come in person for Board of Ed. She just watches our recording and does our minutes. If there's a need for her to be at the meetings to read back a motion or something. Is have 10 people sitting on a table, we probably can get a motion, but
my understanding is she's available in person for almost everything. But that's, we'll proceed in that regard. All right. Time sensitive action items. So, and thank you to Shannon, the selectman's office through Shannon, for pushing this out. I had sent out a preliminary draft of for discussion and review of a RFQ, request for qualifications and request for proposals for owners project management services for the committee. Largely because associated with that went out a work plan. Ultimately, the OPM will take over the committee's schedule. I would anticipate that as part of their function. But the schedule I started to draft up in advance just to give everybody a sense of really how this all fits into the timeline and how aggressively, how limited the window is to get an OPM and or design team's participation in an effective block of time for us over the 3 months that we have, 3 or 4 months that we have. So it is my recommendation for this committee that we try to start this solicitation process as quickly as possible for an OPM. We're not hiring an OPM right now, but it takes a couple of weeks. It'll be, you guys we didn't print out packets for this meeting. So it was sent previously. All right.
No, I haven't taken it.
I can read the dates. I have it in front of me. I just wanted to make sure everybody else could see it.
Perhaps we may have some people joining this meeting who are not familiar with these terms.
Yes, and we'll get into that.
Okay,
I just want to
great.
make sure people have it first. So owner's project manager, basically, that role, and we had one at the prior school building committee. They came on very late in the process. There was a period of over a year, I think, where the committee didn't have that guidance. And it wasn't until they got going that really the committee started to move forward in a positive direction. They help the town. They are down to help develop and facilitate the development of the project for the committee. That they would be the paid owner's project manager.
And critical, sorry to interrupt, but to make sure that the work that is done on the committee is appropriate and compliant with the application process and all that.
Yeah, so they would be the professional expertise to help guide this committee and this town through the grant application process and through the process of designing and ultimately developing and building a consolidated school project. It's an important role. it should be what we're looking for is somebody with the prior experience, with a professional experience, a history of doing this type of work. We've laid this out, or the way I drafted this out is a request for qualifications first. So we're asking them to submit their qualifications. Collectively with a separate pricing proposal, but we would be evaluating these individuals on the merits of their work experience working in K-12 school construction, their history of working with the Office of School Construction Grants and Review. And ranking them by that basis, and then using that through that and through a subsequent interview process, utilizing that to evaluate, to rank them by way of suitability, and then consideration of cost proposals as a secondary consideration to the favorite or highest ranked qualification. That's the way this is set up currently.
How many
Good.
people are you thinking that you might consider? Like, how many candidates?
So
Is there a number?
this would be an open solicitation process, so I think the town would have to post this request for proposals. That would be a public document, and then owners, project managers can submit.
Okay,
If
so
they're
there's,
interested in pursuing, they would submit their packages for consideration. So it's open. We hope to have very many to choose from. And for this type of a project, I would hope we have several to evaluate and choose from so that we get interest, because it is a meaningful project for them and for us, obviously. Potential project, I should say, excuse me.
will the committee have the applications or the?
So the way this process would work is it gets posted, and then there is a question. There's a responding question period where they submit questions, and upon the review of the RFP, the committee would then evaluate those questions and provide answers in a hopefully very tight time frame. And then with those received, they would submit formal qualifications and proposals to us. How we want to address that, we can discuss the review of that, whether a working group that makes recommendations, we would all see them obviously, but whether there's the evaluation process is full committee, whether it's a working group that is familiar with these types of qualifications and proposals for this type of work, that we can decide. And then we go through notification of recommendation for interviews and further follow-up as needed. And then we collectively would have to make a recommendation as to the OPM that the selectmen's office. We would recommend the Board of Selectmen to enter into agreement with on behalf of the town.
How long will you have to post it?
Have you looked at this? Have you looked at the schedule?
I have looked at it, but unfortunately I looked at some others after it, and now I'm mixing them together in my head.
Okay, let me bring it up. So.
It is, but I don't know if that's right.
February,
That's why I brought it up.
February 10th is when they're due.
Yeah, I have this as aggressively as I think we can reasonably ask somebody to do this. We can stretch it out, but the reality is if we were to issue this publicly on Tuesday, the schedule I have here doesn't have us onboarding anybody till February 24th, as it is in a tight window, which is why it's that critical. So I have this as the RFQ being published on Tuesday, because Monday is a holiday. I'm giving them until January 29th to ask questions. It's a Thursday, I believe, might be Friday. We would meet.
Oh, when was it due? Sorry.
Questions due.
Questions due on the 29th.
That's Thursday.
That's Thursday. We would then meet. We would have a meeting we would have a call special meeting on Monday the 3rd to review the RFP, to review the questions, come up with responses, which can be posted the following Tuesday on February 3rd. Sorry, February 2nd we meet. February 3rd, is that jive for selectmen's need? And then that gives them and then we give them another week for the 10th to submit their final proposals to the selectmen's office to this committee by way of the selectmen's office. And then I'm giving us a week to try to set up interviews and discuss as a committee If
So we'll
it
have the
stretches-
finals on the 10th, so then basically you got 2 meetings, the following 2 meetings to review the.
Meetings on the
Review.
10th, no, yes, meetings on the 10th. I'm hoping we shortlist people if there's, I'm hoping there's a lot of responses and we can shortlist people for coming in for interviews the following week. And then we would have to make a recommendation. This is a tentative selection schedule. If that stretches, it can stretch a week, but being cognizant that every additional week we take is a week less time we have them between now and, getting information to the town. So.
That's good, Brian. Sure. You have the fee schedule through completion. Any thought process on doing fee schedule through referendum? Because if it's not broken out and you fail. Yeah. Then you want it.
We do have some breakout pricing for.
I see it, but I'm not sure if it's clear enough that I'm not you, right? You see these all the time. I think just that for clarity to have it, so there's. What's our pricing through, grant application?
I did try to address that in the second paragraph under item 3, scope of services. It is the town's intent that the contracted OPM engagement will initially be limited to capture services through project feasibility and corresponding grant application through June 30th. And then we reserve the right to continue or negotiate. But they should have a familiarity with this type of work to provide pricing. So we should have an understanding of what that is and what they're presenting for the whole picture.
And to that point, yes, I think they're almost gonna expect that question. And the reason I know that is when I went to the CCM conference, in November. It's full of all sorts of vendors that deal with community things, and there were multiple vendors that do this owner's project management for schools. And that's their specialty. Some also do a lot of other stuff too, but they specialize in that. And many of them saw that I was from Willington. Oh, you get ready for a school. We're ready. We're ready to send our proposal in. So I think we will get.
I'm hopeful.
I think we will get responses fairly quickly, and they will be responses that are tailored to the state's requirements and including this.
So Jim, for clarity, where you see on 4.2, the fee for basic services, the not to exceed fee, you're through June 30th is project feasibility, grant applications and schematic design phase. And then everything else is if that post grant after that, or post application after that.
That would, yes, we can have that. Let me work and clean up.
You understand what I'm saying? I just put the dotted line across, so it's it's clear for everybody when we get the proposals, this is the cost through June 30th. If there's an application by June 30th, and then anything beyond that, and it allows you to either continue with that same organization, company, or repost. But at least you know the fee schedule already. If you want to continue, you don't have to put it back out. That makes sense.
That is so yes, I will have them. I actually have this highlighted in my version of this Word file to improve the I got breakdown. The fee structure and fee breakdown. Yeah. We're also asking them for reimbursable expense terms and hourly rates for any work that would happen above and beyond, so that we have something should additional services be desired down the line. I'll probably put together a proposal response form. I have one. It didn't make it into this, given the timing, but if the group is amenable, I think it'll be this structure that I sent you, just formatted in a way to provide better clarity. That'll be just one component of their booklets. Again, they have a whole, in this is a whole structure. Item 4.3, cover letter, company information, proposed project team, their relevant project experience, including their work with the OSCR, references and their project approach, how they're going to work with this community, with this town. Workload statement, formal contracts, default indemnification statement, and certificate of insurance, and that's the one question I did have for the selectman's office, Mike. I believe, and you can correct me, I wasn't on the committee back then, but you asked them to provide a certificate of insurance at limits that they recommend. Does the town have insurance limits that?
We would probably talk to our insurer and ask what they. Yeah, so
Let them propose.
they could propose what they think is appropriate, and then we would just verify with our insurer if that is appropriate.
They've actually offered that. Kermit has offered that.
Perfect.
So on the insurance requirements, it says the Willington Board of Education, which should it not also include the SBC? Listed insured.
Sorry, I scrolled. No, it's
Town of
Willington.
Town of Willington, and then it says in Willington Board of Education and others.
Oh,
That's maybe required.
there's an inclusive statement, yeah. There is, right, because there's direct work with the product from the Board of Education, like the ed spec, and yeah. Right.
It is on page 6. Thank you.
And I think that also has to cover that because the superintendent is an employee of the Board of Education. And the superintendent by procedure has to be the one who submits the application. So that I think the insurance has to loop through that process.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we should also include this as the SBC.
Well, the SBC is a committee of the town, so it's included by that.
Okay, well, it wasn't explicit, that's all.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a good
Okay.
question. Yeah. And again, when we show that to Kerma, if they have any questions on that, they will tell us if they need something added.
If anyone has not seen one of these proposals come in, I have proposals from 2023. That you have to pull from your office. If someone just wants to look at what to expect coming in, we have samples from prior ones. If you just want to get a sense. If that makes sense.
It'll be. They're packets.
Yes.
They're books.
So this is the OPC OPM RFQ or RFC. There's RFP RFQ for architectural engineering services.
We'll get to let's wrap
So
this.
just to the point of where would we see like their ability to provide total cost of ownership calculations and analysis? Where do we see that? This or in the engineering?
I think it's a combination, actually.
Can you ask that question again, Adam?
So for total cost of ownership for the project, so one of the whole things we're trying to do is this project's supposed to reduce because of the financial load of the town. That if we're designing the school, they should be able to show our total cost of ownership so that we can see how it's going to affect our tax structure over time. So, what's their ability to do that, and that they need to be able to provide that service. So
that will be some collaboration between them and this committee that they're working for, of course, because we'll have to apply some local only information. Like, for example, we would have the potential of either using a bonding structure or money that we have in a fund or a combination. So we would have to look at what those things are that sort of feeds into the conversation, like about tax impact or whatever.
right, I mean, and our existing budgets and operating costs, capital and expense.
Right.
What those are for existing facilities, they'll need access to that information. But we want to set the expectation that they will be helping with some of the analysis for that.
Absolutely.
Right, you're saying is it the OPM or?
Yes, which one is it? And because I didn't see it specifically in here, maybe I just didn't do the wording, but I wasn't sure. I'm
My
like,
expectation is the OPM will come with a robust in-house estimating department and team, and part of their qualifications and their responses to us should be their ability to provide these services, and we can ask those questions via addendum to this RFP. If we have any follow-up.
I just wanted to make it clear that was
The architectural and engineering team eventually will also have estimating as a component of that, so it'll be a bit of a collaborative effort. Again, I think ideally all of these parties work together with us and with the town as a collaborative team to advance an effective and efficient project.
And these are times, to the earlier conversation, these are times where there will be work that happens on the day-to-day basis. That that myself or the superintendent may be the appropriate resource for. Like when they're ready to gather some bit of information, they may call Phil's office or my office to determine some of the local information that goes with that. And that's where we would be having this interaction, but the key to making sure the public understands the transparency is how we report that back. It's all public documents, and if we email with someone, it's a public document anyway. But we don't wanna say, well, if you really want it, you gotta ask for it. We wanna make sure we find a way to, whether it's reporting it in meetings or whatever, that we're gonna report back that we've had these communications, given this information to the OPM.
I just think it's explicit that they understand that is an expectation.
And it's not.
It's not explicit in here.
And that's what he's saying.
Yep.
So
You wanna add that statement in,
Right,
that's something
in
to
the appropriate place, but I will make sure I add a statement of consent.
I mean, if there was, I missed it if there, I didn't see it.
Sorry for reading. I should read and try to run it at the same time. You know,
because you're asking, we've gotten square foot pricing, building cost, but you're asking for what's the offset for a CIP? What's when there's staffing changes, if you go to one building, is that what you're asking for, all those things?
I mean, yes, but also like, we have our operating costs right now. Okay, we also have our cost of ownership, capital expenditures for re-roofing, HVACs, things like that. And we have that, and that calculation will need to come into when we're doing the analysis for the town. They'll need access to that information. And to be able to determine, what's our cost savings versus the existing if we do nothing. Yeah, okay, and without that information, without the expectation that they will have to be interacting with the town, we need to set that and make sure it's clear, because they'll need that to provide that information, so we can look and see, hey, if the cost of this versus doing this, what's gonna be the overall total? And, we need to meet.
So it's really cost of ownership across some options.
Right. And that the expectation is that they provide that.
yeah, and to our end, we need to facilitate that and getting that information through your office, through the finance. So those requests should come through us to the various parties, and then vice versa. I mean, we're all gonna work together, so.
We're gonna add that.
Yeah, I have a note to add that. On page 5.
Right.
I'll make it at the end of section 3. Yes, thank you. Rolling. I don't get the flip as you see. Jimmy's on it.
So now we're starting to get some collaboration rolling here, right? We're getting some committee work going on, or
Give me 1 second to just start at the top and make sure. So there was a question on this. These should be addressed to the chair by care of the selectman's office. Shannon is going on leave, or Sharon is leaving.
Shannon is leaving.
Shannon, sorry, what did I say?
Sharon.
Shannon is leaving. It should I'm just gonna have it be care of administrative assistant to the first selectman.
For the packet delivery, yeah. Right. Right, and we'll receive those in and they'll stay sealed until the appropriate date in there.
This was, I believe, hosted by the Board of Ed. Addenda were posted by the former time we did this, and I don't know if it's the appropriate way to do this. Addenda were distributed by Brenda, the superintendent's office, as they were issued, and it looks like. Yes, so I'm wondering what the appropriate contact is there. We should be distributing the addenda.
So
but it has to
the committee should agree, whatever.
Yeah.
The addenda should be a product of the committee.
Correct.
And then the committee can ask whichever, but I think right now pointing everything through the first selectman's office is the contractually correct way of doing it, because the first selectman's office ultimately has the legal responsibility for the contract.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Can you, Mike, another question for, since this is solicitation, the selectmen, where do we post those? I don't know where we post them.
So it will be posted on the town's website, which of course has limited, architects aren't checking the town of Willington website every day. But what we would do is we would reach out to the typical, there's, the state of Connecticut runs a, I don't know what it's called, listserv or bulletin board, whatever it is.
Specific, yeah, I've been there, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's specific to this though, where we're gonna publicly post the addenda. Where are we posting this on our town website?
Oh,
For starters, I need a link to that webpage so that I can include it in the solicitation so they can look for it.
so what we would end up doing probably is create a tab for it on the school building committee main page, not in the public schools, but the one on the town's. When you go to boards and committees, you'd go to school building committee and then, but I'll have to have that link created. Unless we just use the link for the school building committee main page, because then the tab will be there.
I will do that. If that's okay.
Yeah, so just use the URL for the school building committee page off of the main page.
Perfect.
And then we'll put a button right on this. When they open that page, they'll see the button for that. We just updated that page like last week, so I know we're technically capable of.
All right, I'm gonna keep the train of thought going. Enrollment, I capture as 519. Because that is the study. The proudest study. The latest. It just notes that as project description, the projected enrollment is 519, in line with the ed specs developed by the board.
Wait, sorry, enrollment students currently, future, perspective?
It's a projected enrollment.
Okay.
Out, I don't know what year that was, but within 10 years. So part of the grant application process is to have an enrollment study performed.
Mhm.
This is way in the weeds.
Okay.
But the ed specs are designed, so you can weigh in others, whatever.
And who did the study?
Peter Putnam.
This guy, yeah, you can speak to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Here's the 20.
it's,
Yeah, it's gonna be, what do we know?
it's
Yeah,
eight.
2035.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
8 or 9
because they're in the-
It's a requirement by the state that we have a very specific enrollment study. And they look at like births in your town, they look at families moving in, how old kids are, what grades they're all in, they do their best to figure out. Don't ask me what magic they use to figure out those numbers, but they try to project enrollment for a period of time, and we are required to submit that to the state. It has to do with our like square footage and per pupil information. The educational specifications are with the Board of Education, states as necessary to maintain the programs we have now. Has to do with things like how many second grade classrooms, would we need a health services office, like a nurse's office? Those are the things that the Board of Education is, has submitted. Is giving the school building committee so that you know what the group thinks is necessary to maintain that. That's the two different things there.
One other thing about the projection, that's really important because we're able to take the highest number and we multiply that by a number, and that's the square footage that will be reimbursed by the state. So it's to our advantage to use our highest number that we have on our projections, because then we can have more space within our school.
Yeah.
It's not overly germane to the work of this. It's just, again, it's just project research. I wanted to make sure I was capturing it correctly. But it will be very germane to the grant application process and develop the solutions, so we'll have to talk to it. So the other thing that we should all weigh in on is evaluation criteria. So the qualifications rankings first, I have this listed as relevant project experience, project team qualifications, and project approach really as equal weight in our evaluation. Well, we'll come up with our evaluation metric in now and receive the proposals. But that's what they're going to be basing their qualifications on, an effort to be responsive to what we're looking for. And then cost proposals are a secondary evaluation or a secondary component to that initial qualification based ranking. This way we're the people that we feel are gonna best suit us, rise to the top. And that are most qualified for us, rise to the top, and then it gives us the opportunity to also secondarily allow costs if there's a delta. As a secondary ranking. And then we reserve the right, I think, in this to award based on the best interest of the town of Wellington overall as a composite picture. So if somebody really is, if the best qualified is really close to the second qualified, and the second qualified is a really low number, we can take that into consideration.
So I did have a question on page 6 about the relevant project experience. You had it is completed in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure from a commercial standpoint, that seems a little short, but I don't know from municipal projects. Given like some of the stuff that I've dealt with, it spans over a year. So like we have one and usually they're dedicated to that project. So, 1 to 2 years for building a plant or something. And so I just wasn't sure if that was a little short, but from a municipal standpoint, I don't know, maybe 6 to 7 years I was thinking, but.
So that's an interesting question. We debated this, I believe, on the previous SBC. I know we discussed it anyway. I don't remember how deep the debate was, but one of the things we saw in some of the proposals was we saw people who had previously been doing schoolwork and had kind of their business had veered away from school. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if the staff that was in the school programs went to another firm or what. But I think we had one that the last school project they had done was 6 years previous. And then all of the others had projects within the 5 years. And so it made it easy to say that we don't feel like that firm's prepared to do the job. And more specifically to Connecticut, because it's not a real big state geographically, there are only relatively few firms that do this anyway. So you want the people who are currently doing it. And they're gonna be active, like the firm we chose last time, was just finishing a school in Mansfield. So these, I don't think we'll have any problem finding firms all with lots of projects within the 5 years.
Okay, because I wasn't sure, it was like 3 projects within 5 years, so your project is how much, 3 divided by 5?
Keep in mind, it's the company, not the individuals necessarily. So those companies should have opportunity. They should, if that's what they do.
Okay.
Many did. They'll have ample from a business standpoint.
You're looking at the firm, not the individual manager.
And then the individual manager will have their own qualifications as part of this as well.
Okay, I just was, so this is the firm's.
I did question the $30 million total in that. I mean, honestly, whether it needs to be greater, but I don't want to.
It's a minimum required, right?
So is 30
enough?
30 for minimum needs. I think it's more accommodating. And obviously, if they're submitting all $31 million projects, maybe they're doing work that's slightly smaller than what we need, and that'll be a factor in their qualification ranking.
Yeah, I think you can handle that evaluation.
Do you think it's gonna stop them from applying?
No,
I don't even.
So on the evaluation criteria, it says, the town of Willington, who in the town of Willington is gonna do it? Us, I assume, but it wasn't clear.
It would be us.
Okay.
We are the school, we're the ones tasked with, we're issuing this RFP, we're the ones responsible for recommending for it.
Okay, and the owner will conduct interviews?
Good question. Good catch. Okay. Well, I mean, we're working on behalf of the owner, so.
Okay, so I wasn't sure who's the owner.
The town of Willington is.
Oh, okay, but I wasn't sure, so.
No, we're just.
You'd be doing the work on behalf of
the owner.
Right.
Okay, all right.
What that also allows is if our finance office also looks at their proposal and finds something, it allows, if it's just says the SBC will evaluate, you don't want someone to say, well, you guys evaluated and picked us, and then your finance department says something. So it's all under the umbrella of the town.
Okay.
I just keep rolling. Any other comments?
I went through, I think that something about like subcontracting, but they won't subcontract any of its work. I mean,
We're
the
already
problem,
September.
yeah,
without our consent.
Okay. without our consent, okay, okay.
So if they have something, if they need to hire a third party estimator, or, we're allowing them to do some on-site due diligence, or, help us with geotechnical investigation. Who's gonna have to do that. all.
Yeah, I mean, there's subbing out a lot of their compliance and CHRO stuff and all that.
And I was thinking that since we have a secondary ranking based on price. That's for the project owner, but I wasn't sure about how we would look at for the cost of ownership of the facility. So that would be a factor. I mean, this is for them as a project manager. I guess I'm probably jumping the gun here, looking at the.
Yeah, they're not proposing this, they're not responding with cost for project this
Right,
stage,
this is
this is
their-
their fee for their
Right.
services, so that's what we're evaluating in the second fund. And the qualifications and their ability to perform what we're asking them to do with the carrying costs and all of that type of evaluation. That'll come up in their qualifications, right?
Okay. That's it.
So, for Adam, everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody else who's had a chance to take a look? Any other comments? I think we've answered everything I had. What I'd like to recommend is that we, with the comments discussed tonight, I'd like to recommend we get this out to be posted. And we can always make additional changes and issue an addendum to correct anything, if anybody comes up with anything between now and our next meeting. So there is always still that opportunity, but I want to start the clock on this so that people are looking at it and the word is out, and give them time to build the questions. Because I do think it's that critical. If you guys are amenable to that, I'm okay. Any objections? Because I made a motion.
As long as we fix the link.
Yes, so so let me see if I can do that in the motion. So I'm going to make a motion that the Willington School Building Committee authorizes the posting of the solicitation for qualifications and proposals for owners' project management services for grant application and administration, building and site design, and construction of a new consolidated preschool through grade 8 school, with the corrections discussed during this meeting tonight. I'm looking at you, Mike, to see if that sounded correct. Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And
In
second.
person.
Discussion. Any further discussion?
Jim, were you planning to send a copy of the modified proposal?
I will distribute that as well to the group, correct?
Especially our.
Please.
Yeah, so
we're posting it too on the.
you need to yell at me right now, or yell at me over the weekend if Tuesday for posting doesn't seem viable, if there's any oversight for the school committee.
I have a couple of notes. Phil was looking at the main page over here while the discussion was going on, so I could make sure I got my notes right. And so we will, first thing Tuesday morning, set up the appropriate places on the webpage that we talked about.
Okay.
We'll put a link on the SBC page for it. And I'm gonna see if we could get a running banner on the main front page. So it draws attention as soon as you open the town's page, that, like latest news type of thing. And then we will contact the, I forget what they're called, but the bulletin board where these things get posted, where all the architects look and,
All right, so
yes, we'll do that Tuesday.
to that end, I will finish this thought and make these comments and send around the draft on Friday, tomorrow. I know that's a big ask, but I'm gonna do it then. No, I mean, I think it's based on the discussion tonight, I think we're in a good initial spot with this. So,
Next question from Liliana.
So it's only, you said for, K-8 new school?
A consolidated preschool through grade 8 school,
Okay, consolidated,
Yeah.
meaning. Okay,
meaning a single consolidated preschool through grade 8 school. Because that is.
So we're not
charged.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, which it doesn't mean it's a new building or.
right, so that's why I wanted to clarify, okay,
Right.
got it,
And it is
okay,
both, and-
that's, I wanted to clarify, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Still found the appropriate bulletin board.
Gotta go to the school construction project bids on the state contracting.
That,
Contracting portal.
yeah, that needs to go out, but we need to also. I
Right,
need
on
to-
ours, yes, but you need the accounts to get into that and it can be a pain, so. Just gotta make sure that, I don't know if you have those or Shannon has those, but.
Okay.
That it will be another thing that you need. to
So
make
you and I are gonna figure that out on Tuesday morning, aren't we?
Yeah, and Mike, if you could take the lead on procedurally figuring out how that gets out in the world, that would be great. I will.
Yeah, I think because we have the contract responsibility, which would, yeah.
All right, so motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor, we're gonna try it verbal, all those in favor, actually, let's just do roll call, sorry. I'm gonna start online, Adam. Sorry. Try it again.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Adam.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Peter, you're an alternate.
That's.
My apologies. Yep. Thank you. I'm a yes.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
And was that 7? Did you take notes?
No, I'm not.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're good. All right, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's 7.
Trying really hard.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being prepared to talk through that tonight. I think that's one of the few things that the schedule is the one thing that keeps me agitated personally on this process.
Yeah. Really good.
So you're gonna post that, the draft then?
I
Or
will.
you're gonna send to us
I will
directly?
distribute on Friday. I'll distribute this if I can. If not tomorrow, I will get it out by Saturday.
Okay, I understand.
But I will try to get it to you tomorrow afternoon, and then with the expectation that Mike will handle getting it publicly posted on Tuesday to align with the dates we captured.
Yeah, if someone sees something in it, it's gotta be addressed, speak up by Tuesday morning and.
Yeah, if you have comments,
We see a typo or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, we can waive it, or they can waive it.
Yeah.
As long as it's not. All right, so. Next up on 60, item 2, RFP for architectural and or engineering services. So I haven't prepared, this is another thing I think we need to consider for the same scheduling considerations, given our limited window as well. I have not taken the initiative to make a draft of this because there are a couple of different ways we can probably go with the structuring of this, and this committee needs to weigh in on that. I'd like this committee's discussion on the take that initiative. So I'm gonna ask a question currently, because I know the Board of Ed has been working with an architectural design firm for a while. They were also engaged by the prior school building committee. Ideally, that contract needs to be, some design services contract will need to come as a function of this committee, not as the Board of Ed. But what is your existing relationship contractually with them, and is there any conflict or is there any potential conflict? My concern is you guys have them under, you've been working with them under some agreement. It's twofold. I don't want to defer our early stage. I don't want to impinge on our ability to get some early design assistance, but if we delay, we can't delay too much, because we will run afoul, and I don't want to do anything that will limit their professional ability to.
Yeah, we wanna leave them clean to be able to bid.
So,
Looks dirty,
QA now.
looks dirty if
Yeah.
you do that.
Yeah.
my expectation is I'd like to just start this, but so I would recommend we go straight out with this as soon as we can pull it together. Through this committee. So that they can be responded, I think it'll be the same qualifications and fee-based. Qualifications first, fee, secondary component. Solicitation. But I want to allow them to, I don't want to disqualify them for an existing working relationship with this committee or the town. And
That ship is sailed.
Yeah.
In other words,
Their contract is done.
They've been paid their fee. Anything that they would do now would be based on the work they've already completed for us. If we asked them to update something and they were doing it on the goodness of their heart. But there is no bank right now. There's no funds tied to any vendor for architectural services at this time. And I agree 100% ethically. You want to allow them to bid if they want to on a project, which means you should not engage them with those services without going through an RFP.
So in that case, it then was just to do this as efficiently as possible, and I'm hoping maybe at our next meeting. There is also an advantage to having the OPM perhaps onboarded a week or two before we need to make a decision on the A&E contracts.
They can be helpful in that selection process.
So we're walking a tight line, and the AE team's gonna have as much work as the OPM, and we're shortening it. On behalf of this committee, so we want to be cognizant of moving it along quickly. I think if I'm hoping to get a draft of something. If anybody wants to assist with that, by all means, please reach out to me. But I respond to these, so I'm familiar with how they're structured.
I just shared you the exact RFP that went out in 2023, so you have a sample. I'm sure you have samples. Then you can see it's got Willington written in it, so.
Yep. So there are a couple of different ways we can structure this. A large part of the problem is we are not gonna know what the project is. To a degree, an add renovation to the hall is significantly different in a level of effort than a new build on a vacant site versus phased renovation of some sort to accommodate the needs. So asking for fee proposals for a full scope of work at this stage for an AE team is a lot. And I think it'll really drastically prohibit our responses. I would have trouble responding to it. I would probably pass on it. If it were me. So I would recommend if we phase this again, but we only ask for pricing initially. Through design, feasibility, grant application through June 30th. We ask for a price to assist us through the grant application process. With our option to either resolicit for continuing services or to negotiate
to carry forward
through contract amendment, either or. If that makes sense to everybody. So we'd only be committing and we get pricing. We don't be asking them for pricing. We can ask them for a working estimate for what they feel is a percent construction their fees would be, perhaps, for continuation of services. Just to get a benchmark for what we think their structure might be and a marker for if we do decide to continue services with them after, if the town approves something. So that's what I'm kind of grappling with, but that's where my mind is going with it. I just wanted those of you who deal with this or have dealt with this in the past, you have recommendations, it would be helpful.
I think the challenge with working with so many unknowns is that you just have to word that part of the request sort of as simple and as clear as possible, that basically in short terms, you have to tell the story of where we are. You know, that this is how the process is unfolding, and hence we are looking to have this option. And with whatever somewhat of scope we can put in the option there. And they're professionals in this world. They'll probably fire back a bunch of questions in the question period. And then we'll have to see if we can answer them, and that will probably hone down the proposal at that point.
Jim, can I ask what we're asking them to do?
Well, that's what we have to.
That's the question, that's the question.
You can ask that, but we're still
I mean,
figuring it out.
you're gonna ask them to build a school in a separate location, a K-8, or renovate the two schools.
And will theirs go with the?
Or renovate one school to consolidate one,
So
those are the three questions that's gonna come up.
in the structure of this, I think the ask is we're expecting them to provide assistance with project feasibility, schematic design, for several potential options for a pre-K, preschool through grade 8 school. I would put a limit on it of a certain number, otherwise they're gonna ask the question anyway, so. How many options are we supposed to consider, because our pricing will based on that, so we have to find a balance. I'd say up to 4. Perhaps or 3 with variations, with add alternate options, perhaps. You know, some structure, I'll think about that a little bit further too, if anybody has ideas, feel free to send them along.
And then ultimately, it will go in as part of the application, the work that they do.
Yes, so they would be assisting us with the project development, at the level needed to provide pricing, budgeting, and design assurance towards a grant application, and assistance with the forms and the application process through this, through the superintendent's office. Thank you. So, does that seem really, are we good with structuring this to referendum through June 30th as a draft?
Yeah, and I think the most appropriate term to use, particularly in A&E services, is that line has to be through application, because that's very specific. What the design requirement is up to application. So you don't want to say if the referendum's 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after the application, you don't want to tie it to the referendum date, you want to tie it to the application.
Yeah, no, it's, and then there's assistance, there's, I forget the form numbers, but there's all sorts of form work that they will assist in helping us prepare, for helping superintendent's office prepare that. Right. I have, I think, a good handle on that. I suspect I can pull that from somewhere. That'll get us started. What I'll endeavor to do is, before I'll have that. Unless somebody wants to take a stab at it with me, or instead of me, I'm probably well served to take that on, given that it's what I do. So I will draft that. I will try to get that out in your packets ahead of the next meeting, so that we can have the same discussion potentially. And we'll have to discuss dates in particular and how this fits into the schedule. Yep. Okay. And that, I think that's all I need. Yep, okay. Thank you, everybody, for that discussion and for humoring the lengthy discussion on meeting number 1. All right, next up, 6E, funding. And here, Ann, now you can ask your question. Recording secretary and administrative expenses for the committee. So I think it's probably best to start with where we're at for what your prior work has been on this, Mike, with the Board of Finance. If you could kind of just.
So,
this for us.
So I apologize, I didn't bring the exact dollar amount, but that is a matter of record, which I'm assuming Jim has.
$72,661.99 for some reason.
I was $300 off what I had in my head. That money, was transferred from closed projects by the Board of Finance recently into a separate fund for, this, for the school building committee. So that money, obviously, the majority of that spend would be consultant work, starting with the owner's project manager. It doesn't mean it's all the money the committee's gonna need. The previous committee had two separate allocations of $100,000, if I remember correctly. Spent the first 100 and spent maybe 30 some thousand of the second 100,000. So, and that was over a 2.5 year period, something like that.
To get to the same part, we need to get through it.
Right, so we may not have to. We probably don't have enough money right now out of that $72,000 to do the things we need to do, but it's a good starting point. So there certainly is money to pay the recording secretary, because that's a minor expense compared to the rest of us.
But we don't, that's not approved for our use by the town yet, though.
Well, so that's an interesting question, because every time we do one of these things, we debate what is the proper approval process.
Okay.
Right? And I went to the finance office and I asked, what do we do next? So that we can, find out how we get access to the funds or whatever. And the answer from the finance director was, because that money is in previously approved projects that were closed out, that money, by virtue of the action of the Board of Finance, becomes available. So, and I will verify this on Tuesday, I believe the committee can start. I mean, you can't you can't spend any money by Tuesday, obviously. But I believe that the confirmation I will get on Tuesday is that the committee can start, as long as we follow all the normal purchasing processes or whatever. Can start tapping those funds.
Well, that simplifies recordings.
Yes.
So that's the larger question. I know other committees, the selectmen's budget captures expenses such as recording secretaries and a CIP. We're a separate committee.
It always seems to happen, or say, well, we don't have money for it, let's get the selectmen to pay for it, and the selectmen often pay for it.
If that money is available, I think if it's everybody's preference, probably for any costs incurred by this committee to be associated with funding at this committee and not from another budget.
That's appropriate.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's available, then we have funds available for recording secretary payroll. Which is great. We don't really have any other administrative expenses, but we will have recording secretary expenses, because I think we can have somebody prepare the minutes of this meeting from the recording of this meeting.
Right, which is different from a contractual obligation with the, with an OPM or whatever, because that has some other steps of approval that, for the contract and all that.
And we're not committing to any of those expenses yet, because we're not there. What I will. So we do have precedent, what I will say is, from my experience is this, a 72,000 is going to be short of what this committee needs to get to a grant application by June. Considering OPM services, they were about $60,000 last year, or last committee, I think, in that neighborhood. I'm ballparking. AE services will be a good chunk. There's recording secretary, there'll be legal fees.
Well, we just said they spent 130s.
Yeah,
It's gonna be in that zone.
but we're asking, but they didn't do much design. We're asking for more of that.
We spent a lot more time with bills for the OPM, because we engaged the OPM over a longer period of time, a lot of billable hours.
And we may also need things that go around, because we're asking for a lot more detailed financial picture of municipal financial advisor, that can provide projections as to how to maximize.
To get the cost projections, we will need financial advisors, and we will need the engineering data, site data.
Good.
So I think we spend a lot of money on site assessments.
We did do some environmental assessment.
If we have some of that, we can reuse some of it. Yes.
Well, we would probably not be talking about that particular site.
Okay.
But we did work on the Hallsville site there.
Yeah, I mean, if we have some data.
Did we do work at Hull also? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have one.
So,
okay.
So let's just say we're not committed, but I suspect it's going to be that or more than 130 between now and June.
Right, but what Mike said, there's 200,000 allocated for the other one. So that means he said he spent 130. So where's that other 70? It was allocated for the school building committee already.
Some thousand from the previous was rolled back into the town budget, because that committee had ended. So that was closed out.
So the only other consideration with this is schedule is gonna drive a lot of this, and I get very concerned with. Like, if we don't have funds available for the OPM when we're ready to sign a contract with them, we can't engage them. Which leads to delays. It'll be the same thing with AE services. So the committee having the ability to act efficiently, because the schedule is the driver. So it's not this is what it, like, ultimately, we're gonna have to make sure that any funds are spent are very cost effective and conscious here. I just want to find a way to avoid the delays, the potential delays, and then in having to get funding for every step of the process, every single thing, because there will not be time for that.
Yeah, if we try to compress it, it's gonna cost us more money. Cause like I deal with this engineering, like, we have this amount of time to do this project. Well, they don't wanna sign the CapEx, so they wait and wait and wait. All right, now it's signed. Now we gotta rush and put in way more money and time than we should have, if we got our act together and did it when we were supposed to, because it's gonna cost more money for the analysis, the engineering, all of it. We have to be on schedule.
Can we add some more money now?
Well, that's what I'm asking. There is a precedent both with prior school building committee and the emergency services facilities building committee now, where 200 is allocated. And then it's the committee's job to spend it effectively and efficiently, but I don't know whether it makes sense to seek that approval, that authorization.
Yeah, I think the challenge is because we're already in a budget year, we're halfway through a budget year, we don't have the opportunity to put it forward for, say, we'd like to put this in the July 1 budget.
Correct.
Because it's money we essentially have to find now. So I think there's a couple of paths.
Way before July.
Yes, there are a couple of paths that this committee could take. If this committee feels they have a reasonable ballpark estimate to put out there tonight or the next meeting, then the committee should communicate to trying to think of what is the most expeditious process, probably jointly communicate to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, that there's an expectation of this need in the current budget year, and ask for guidance and determine what potential funding sources there are. And depending on what is available and what process needs, then the Board of Finance and or the Board of Selectmen can respond to that request and figure out the next step forward. Because it's one thing for me to walk into Donna's office and have a conversation about what funds are available, like looking at the financial picture of the town. That's one conversation, but there's no commitment there. We have to get a process going.
I think the critical metric is gonna be, we're gonna need to have adequate funds available for the architectural and engineering services solicitations come back. Which gives probably a month and a half realistically to figure that out and to have the discussion.
Yeah, and if we have to go through town meeting and all that, we'll use up that month and a half.
Well, it'll go quick. That's why I think we need, I think the request needs, I think a request should be considered soon.
Yeah. Time is money, we're gonna waste more taxpayer money if we sit on it.
That's not to say we're gonna spend it. But that's to say we need the ability to fund the work of this committee to not lose opportunity for 93% reimbursement on whatever project the townspeople ultimately decide they may want to put to. How do people feel about, I'm just gonna throw it out there for that, how do people feel about that $200,000 number? As the Board of Finance may say, no, we're not gonna give you that, that's fine.
Well, I think if we already have the 72,000, deduct the 72,000.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go for the 200,000 total amount with what's already allocated.
So another 130 something.
Yeah,
137 or whatever it is.
137, 3, whatever.
128 or whatever.
Quick math, let me do the damn.
Sorry.
I have the number, hold on.
For a total of 200. And just those two numbers.
They do the value that they have there.
We don't want a paper rush job, you know, so they have to take, I don't take one, just one.
That'd be comfortable. I think I would be comfortable with a $200,000 budget. I don't think it was come to that.
I don't think we're gonna get there. I think we need to have the flexibility to be responsive this week. I do think the design services fees are gonna be more, because we're asking for a lot more options. And I think there's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, Phil just made a good point. There is already the $3 million set aside towards the school. And that may be, particularly for the short term, because that money is already sitting there. That may be an option to be considered as to where this money could come from. Taxpayers have already put it there. So
Even if we
either way,
borrow
it has to go.
against it until we find another source.
Well, you're not really borrowing against it, I mean, because you can always transfer later anyway. You know, you're.
Yeah. It will let it be a board of finance decision, I think, ultimately, where our purpose now would just be to request through the board of finance.
It'd be them, where it would come out of.
Do you think it's the board of finance job to spend that money?
No, not to spend, I think it.
Allocate the. Or is the call, is it just a town meeting to expend money out of the $3 million fund?
That's why I think you should communicate to the board of selectmen and the board of finance at the same time, and that way, as the conversation. The conversation with the finance office about what is the finance office's recommendation for where the money should come from. Can then feed back to whatever the process needs to be. So you get the board of selectmen, board of finance on board. And whatever that process is to get it to, you know, the public consideration or whatever, then.
Cause we've already spent some of that. And so whatever that process was. And I believe it was the Board of Education that requested that amount. So. Whereas if it's not that amount and it's the Board of Finance, they absolutely have, right, they would have to say yes or no, this is general fund.
So that'll be a collaborative discussion between the board of select and the board of finance. But if people are comfortable, the value to get to 200,000 would be $127,338.01.
Let me make sure I got that right, 127,338.01.
Correct.
Thank you.
And through either source.
And
what?
So through either source.
I think the recommendation would be the committee would request
The total of 200,000.
200, yeah, so what's the best way to make? I think we should make a motion requesting we reach out to the board of selectmen for
And the board of finance.
and the board of finance.
A total of.
Right, to determine.
I'm trying to think through before I make a motion. All right, let me try it. So I'm gonna make a motion that the Willington School Building Committee request consideration of additional funding through the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen for a total of $200,000 minus the $72,661.99 previously made available into the school building committee fund account. So for the supplemental request of $127,338.01. Please don't make me repeat that. Have a second.
Seconded. Anybody else?
Thank you. Thank you for not making me try to repeat that. Any further discussion? I don't always look at the screen. Sorry, Adam and Lisa. Oh, we're in a motion. Lisa, you can't say anything. Sorry. Adam,
That's
I got
okay.
a thumbs up. Okay, so we'll take a roll call. All those in, not roll call. So Adam.
Yay.
Lillian.
Yay.
Myself, I'm a yay.
Yes.
Yeah. Adam?
Yay.
All right, unanimous. I will draft up a letter on behalf of the committee and get that off to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. And I will refer them to the minutes once they are available for the. Thank you, everybody, for the discussion. All right, so we talked about funding for professional consulting services. So we have the ability, what is the process, Mike, for recording secretary will submit payroll through this committee and we will approve it to the business office for.
Yeah, typically the chair just signs off on the hours.
Okay. Yep. And that's the only one we have for now, so we'll deal with the rest later. Beautiful. All right. Any other funding considerations related to items 1 or 2? Because we can't edit here. No, all right. Moving on, then new business task assignments as appropriate. We've already discussed quite a few. So we're looking at a draft of the architectural engineering services RFQ. I will take the initiative on that one. And I also have a letter to the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen funding. I have a list here. I can run down thoughts on what we should start thinking about.
What were your tasks? So you have the.
So I gotta draft the architectural engineering services RFQ. And I gotta write that letter. We just were requesting funding from the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen.
And finalize the.
Finalize
And I got
OPM.
All right. Anything else you guys are doing? Okay.
Our task is to remind you of your tasks.
So this is where we start delegating. So I think we have a couple of things that we wanna focus on, and a mailer I think is the predominant one. So with our meeting schedule of 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month, our next meeting would be the 26th, and then the 9th, February 9th. I would love to be able to get a mailer out for ahead of the 9th, the meeting on the 9th. Letting people know about this committee, letting people know about the community forum discussion at the start of the meetings, the opportunity to engage with the committee, et cetera, with a link to the SBC site and documentation. So who wants to figure out how to make that happen? Or who?
So I want to offer just 2 different ways to look at this.
Sure.
Which may drive what the tasks are. Certainly is probably a good idea and most efficient for this committee to come up with its own mailer, fill the available space on the mailer with whatever information is appropriate. The other option is we have been collecting little Post-it notes in the first selectman's office of things other departments in this building and in the town would like to draw some attention to, with the idea of sending out a mailer that just has, a few taglines about a bunch of different things to the community and pointing them to websites and things like that. So it'll be more of a generic mailer talking about a bunch of different topics. So I'm not trying to suggest either direction. And we hadn't set a date yet for that because we're still gathering interest. So you could either tag on to the one we're gonna put out, which would, I guess, force us to get it out in that schedule. Or you could the committee could go with its own and then be able to describe, put whatever they want and fill all the space on the postcard or whatever.
I think the joint one is a good idea, because it just saves you. And mailers don't cost a lot, but at the end of the day, they do. So it's
Standard postcard side figure roughly $1,700 to $1,800 for every mailbox.
Right, so
No.
No,
No?
much no.
CCM last time was $250 for a mailer.
Oh, CCM.
We did our mailers, double-sided postcards for $247.50. $247.80 last time. I guarantee it's gone up since 23. But those double-sided postcards, if we can drive down to pick them up, they're well worth their weight in gold.
At that price, I would like the committee to have its own.
CCM.
Where did I get the 17?
Because then when they send their envelopes for taxes,
That's pretty.
households, it might be a number.
I had a number upstairs of 1,700.
I mean, maybe
This is
Yeah, postcards.
So this is the research.
good information.
I'm making the assumption it's still a possibility.
Okay.
But if we can do that for around that, even if it's 500, a mailer for 500 is. But you have a double-sided postcard and you can fill every square inch except for like the tiny block.
So the first question is, do we have somebody that has the capacity and the willingness to take this on behalf of the committee? And do we have anybody with graphic design or, that sort of background?
Draft up the card.
That would take a stab at take the lead on drafting up an initial double-sided postcard?
I mean, I can try. I can try to take the lead on something like that. I'm not a graphic designer, but I do use Canva, and I think Canva, and I use ChatGPT, and so I think with some different software options, we can. I could take a.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I could try to take a stab at it. Of course, I'd need a lot of feedback on exactly how we want to present this and what we want to go. I mean, if I did do that, it'd probably be helpful to hear from everybody, maybe like the top 3 or 4 things that we want to make sure that we get across to people. Because I think people are going to look at it really quick. I do think it's probably wise to have our own card so that our messages don't get lost in other messages coming out from the town. So maybe if I can get like 3 or 4 points that we want to get across and clear on that mailer, that's probably what I would try to go with. And I would just take it as, I mean, I can do something that's a starting point, knowing that it's going to need a lot of feedback because I think, people could have a lot of different reactions to it.
I would be happy to work with Lisa Ann, I'd be happy to work with you if you like.
Sure.
Yeah, and when we get to the graphics component, I have access to the full Adobe suite, so we can visually make it okay. What do you guys think for content? My initial thoughts off the cuff now are direct them make sure they have access to the school building committee website with links to documentation.
Meeting schedule.
Meeting schedules.
Wanted something about the
Community-
participation.
Public participation in community forums at the start of the meetings.
The Q&A.
Right.
Yeah, the Q&A schedule, date, time.
Yep.
I think an explanation of our percentage of reimbursement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And,
In the sense of timeline.
Yes.
yeah, and then we will lose dollars.
Taking all those notes, Lisa?
Only one postcard.
I'm gonna go back and I'll be using the YouTube transcript.
The goal I think the goal being to make people aware for this initial mailer that the committee is meeting, because that's every household, and to give them access to the information that we have publicly available now. And a brief synopsis of the major schedule milestones and what's driving us here, which is a reimbursement rate.
Yeah, and our charge.
Okay.
That which is supposed to.
Phil, do you have a draft of the mailer that you used? I just wonder if, like, size wise or.
Yeah, it's larger than, it's probably twice the size of a normal postcard that you're thinking. But they give us the exact space that we need to fill and they fit that space on there.
They're like the size of the campaign, the postcards that go out.
But yes.
I'm just size-wise,
good,
roughly,
yes,
yeah.
example, yeah.
Lisa, can you work with Phil directly to make sure
I
that
will, yeah.
information on the mailing and the formatting, but also the pricing? See if we can figure out what the pricing structure is.
We can get the CCM information and I can share design. We also probably need to get our, we had an email last time sbc@willington.org, and that was,
Next up on my list, yes.
that should go on the postcard as well.
Yes, it is sbc@willingtonct.gov, right?
Is it live?
That is my question.
We shut down the at org, so.
It is linked on the school building committee site. I don't know who has access to it, but we need to get access to that email and get it.
Yeah, one of the challenges we've had, including with getting all of you your email addresses, is that now the Microsoft methodology is every single email address has to have its own license, which means they can charge us for it.
Okay.
So we just approved adding 15 new licenses. And we went through all the old licenses and found some like previous employees that still had active licenses when we transferred over from the old to the 365, which is where you're required to have everything licensed individually. So we have closed out 2 accounts. We got 2 licenses back. I don't know if we've used them all up yet, so I'll have to find out tomorrow if we've used them all up.
J Marshall at willingtonct.gov. It's gonna go to someone that's gonna have to check it. What's the difference if it's you or paying for a new license?
I don't disagree. I just don't know where the other, it's fine by me, but
it
might be better for somebody, is it better for somebody to be reaching out to SBC at Willington from a
general mailbox? I would agree.
General mailbox.
I think the general mailbox.
General mailbox is a good idea.
And an individual person you pay for.
And can we access all that general mailbox as well, so we can see at least read only or something? I don't know.
So whether we can or cannot, I assume I will have access to it as chair, but
We
I can
shared
promise that we'll get it all. Can we share it?
We shared all the communications at each meeting that came. There wasn't a lot. It wasn't like if he's gonna communicate with you know, an engineer, it's gonna go through his email and he'll share it.
It's through the SBC.
But no, through his.
So I, as chair, would distribute all the correspondence ahead of.
Anything through sbc@willingtonc.org. Last time, we just shared it out to the committee if something came in.
I need a secretary to your executive.
Yeah, we need to have this thing, maybe an email.
We didn't get a lot of emails through.
No, we didn't.
This is gonna be different though.
I think that.
I love that.
I think for transparency though, we really should include in the communications, the SBC general email.
All right, Tuesday,
So
that
ourselves.
is task number 5 for me now.
There you
Gotta
go.
check on an SBC email.
All right.
So we all have visibility to the communications, that we should be copying the SBC in any of our communications.
Right,
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, that's your test.
Sorry, I put my hand up. Can you say it again? Because I want to make sure we're operating within FOI.
So any communications we are with our individual email address, the town email address, that we're also that we're copying the SBC general email box. So other members of the committee will have visibility to those communications.
Just don't reply all, because then
Yeah,
it creates a meeting and you can't do that.
So it's not on this, so that is something to be very cognizant of, and it's not on this agenda. Freedom of Information Act requirements, reply all is your enemy. Because once we can distribute information for group discussion at a meeting, the instant we go back and forth, it becomes a meeting.
Let's just read only then.
So what I will do is line carbon copy each of us to try to avoid the opportunity for reply all accidentally. It is ideal. But also keep in mind, it's reply all, meaning a quorum of the committee. So, and Lisa, small working groups, you can collaborate effectively. Our threshold is 4 people.
Right.
So
4 people to quorum, so 3 people can work without a meeting.
As a working group, without it being a meeting, and then ideally, and then those people, so that's what I'm hoping we establish to set this up, is those working groups and bring that product back to the committee for discussion during our regular meetings.
So to help drive this particular conversation here, on Tuesday, I'll talk to our IT people. I'll find out if we have a license available. See what we can do to create a unique email address for this, and then I'll do the question about how we make sure there's the broadest amount of access to it and still stay within our security and FOIA rules, all that stuff. And I'll communicate back to you the answer or options.
It should be possible. I have that through my work already, so.
I just want to clarify, if I email Anne or Phil, did I hear that I should copy the SBC email as well, or no?
Just disgusting idea. Don't do that. There is no SBC email yet anyway.
Okay.
Is that, we're talking about letters from the public, right?
In the
That-
SBC.
That we're going to share among us and that we don't want to reply all to, right? That's what.
Or if, say, Jim sends out the final draft of the RFP,
Mhm.
you can't then have discussion about it in reply all mode because you created a meeting.
You can send comments back to an individual, but not collectively for everybody to read, because then it's discussion.
So what happens if we reply to the SPC then? What is that?
If everybody, well, what do we establish the SBC?
Makes it a meeting, which there's forums.
But if everyone has access to the SBC as a general, does that have an issue then?
No, because you just.
No, if we can do read only like you're talking about, then you can't have back and forth, so you will not have a meeting.
All right.
It's when the reply goes to everybody, not.
Right. That's
the initial data.
That's seen by the FOIA regulations as, once you go back and forth, it's seen as a meeting. You're having discussion or debate, you're doing business.
Okay. So I do think it's important there that we do copy, the SBC generally, on our internal communication.
So I think it's imperative for us to be as transparent and communicative in our discussions as possible. So to that end, I think distribution, if people, I don't want to necessarily burden people, like I don't want to run the course of accidentally having a working group then distribute to the community and becoming a larger, this group and the committee and becoming a larger discussion. What I would recommend is that when individual groups such as Ann and Lisa on the postcard get to a certain point that you think is ready for committee discussion, send it to the chair. The chair will distribute it for full committee consideration. Does that make sense? Like, we can't all engage in the back and forth on initial drafts, right?
They can individually share their feedback to you.
Correct.
And you could then
And I can send it all in advance of a meeting as for meeting discussion.
So I will, as part of, I've added a 6B to my task set.
So the email's gonna be on the.
Hang on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I've added a 6B, and what I'm gonna do is I will ask the IT people, what is the best way for us to accomplish the most transparency and sharing of the emails without creating a kerfuffle with this? So that we can find, and I'll get information back to you, the committee can decide what they think is the right way to.
Please use the word kerfuffle, I love that.
Then I have to figure out how to spell it.
The email, the SBC email will be on the mailers?
Yes.
Okay, and who's gonna respond to the questions? Who, you,
We will discuss the questions.
okay, so as a group,
as they
we'll,
come up.
okay,
Yeah, so what we did, I don't know how effective it was, but what was done last committee was there was a frequently asked questions list. It was updated. Was it effective? And or did we get a lot of, I wasn't on until the very end, so I don't know how effective it was for you all along the way, those that were on the committee previously.
What did you think, Phil? A lot of work about the FAQ.
I have no idea how many people looked at it.
Yeah, the problem is you have no sense of who's looking at it, cause it's not like it provides feedback. I think it did have value, and a few people commented that they looked at the FAQs. And we also, when we got requests in on that email address, if the answers were in the FAQ, we would often refer people to the FAQ with a link. So you're not dismissing them, but you're saying, please check the FAQ, and maybe even we answered the question, but look at the FAQ for more.
There's a value in not saying the same thing slightly different ways, and directing people to a certain thing, but if somebody's asking a question, they're hoping to get a response, not go do your research.
Right.
So I think some of those might be a future mailer, here's common frequent questions.
Or here's our FAQ page, because maybe it gets too big to fit on the postcard.
Or that, yes. So I think there's a way, there'll be a lot of common questions, but I think what we really want to do throughout community discussion during the meetings and hopefully let the recordings, and that discussion do the work. And I think the mailers will hopefully get better engagement, because I know it was pulling teeth last time.
I think we need to say why we're doing this on a mailer, because, I mean, the cost of the existing buildings, operating them, explicitly saying the tax burden is the highest burden we have right now versus, we're looking at solutions to that, and we have an opportunity with dollars from the state to reduce our operating costs and meet our educational specs. So we can do both. We can lower taxes and meet the ed specs if we do our job right. And that's what our task is. We're supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of feelings out there about the previous stuff and think why we're doing this, what's wrong with our school? Why we're doing this, we need to tell the school. Because people are just gonna get frustrated and irritated,
Just realizing I didn't type the number that we asked for. Down anymore. All right, I'm gonna rapid fire so we can get through some of these. So I have a couple other things that are gonna add to your list, Mike. The SBC webpage, access to that. Who has it currently?
On the main town page,
Yes.
my office.
Okay. Can you provide access to the committee? I'm set up. I do it on CIP, so I'm happy, to be able to share documentation.
So then that decision needs to be made, because right now, we don't wanna end up with different things in different places.
Yeah.
Right now, that page is just a simple entry page, basically a landing page. It has the committee members on it, and it has two buttons which take you to the SBC pages.
Which is managed on the Board of Ed.
Which is managed on the Board of Ed side, right?
Should it be managed on the Board of Ed side is the question.
It's
I don't have
just
a problem with
It's
it.
just documents, I mean, it's documents and information, there's no campaigning on it. It's just the repository for the information.
It's optics in my eyes at this point, than it is anything else. I don't think functionally, I think it's fine. If the committee, I don't have a problem either way, is what I'm trying to say. I just wanted to raise it as a question. Do you all?
Well, the present committee will continue to grow as we add more and more documents, and we'll need someone to keep that up to date. And
So what is the process for?
Well, in the past, what the process was, the superintendent being in the meetings would then add to the information.
Is that okay with your office, Bill?
Yeah, if you're thinking about optics, if you're asking for a different purpose though. If you're asking for an optics purpose. And you're thinking that it looks like I'm putting on what I want to put on, because that's what people think.
I'm asking that question.
Then maybe we should not put it on the Board of Ed side. And put it on the town side, sorry.
I agree.
I think it
think that's.
should be a
That's
separate
the feedback
tab.
we're looking for.
Yep.
It's
Separate tab.
more blunt than.
I'm trying to foster conversation.
Listen,
So I'm
so
relying on you guys. to
The
speak up.
6 documents that are on there right now, or whatever it is for.
The prior, I don't mind sitting there because we're not.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't wanna spend the time moving the prior, that's a lot of work for.
But since I think unfortunately, Stacy is dealing with finance issues, I know she was dealing with the website stuff. I think I followed on you again, Mike, to see what do we have for the ability to create a document. Widget on the SBC webpage.
So I can tell you right now, the items that are on the school building committee 2025. It is the charge, is the application for you to apply to be on the committee. The enrollment studies on there, the ed specs, community checklist feedback that came out. The actual ed spec, and then the QA&M facility study, which Adam, you were kind of asking about that pricing that's on there. Because that has the matrix budget. And any of the pricing for all the basically capital improvement projects that were there. So that's the only items that are on there. It'd be very easy to transfer right now, as long as you have which you must have document container.
Yeah, the
capacity.
prior website did, so I assume this does. I just haven't seen it yet on our sites, so.
I'm totally willing and I wanna support the concerns about transparency, but I will make the comment that these are public documents, like there shouldn't be a question of
I'm not
transparency.
questioning I'm not questioning you anyway, Phil, I'm
not thinking that way.
the way we can, everything we can do to minimize the potential for optics throwing anything out the window is in our favor.
Your committee should approve any item that goes on the website.
Right, which would happen there or on the town.
I'm aware.
Task 7.
I know, Mike, I'm sorry. Okay, and then,
So are we gonna establish then our own site?
that is
on the
my
town?
next question.
Okay.
You guys are good. Do we have the ability for something like in Google Docs for the committee use so that we have somewhere where we can jointly access all of the various
Self-SharePoint.
Okay.
I do.
Wait,
but
I gotta,
I'm using
let me
it
finish
for-
writing task 7. Hang on.
Before he does 7A.
Yeah.
No, that's gonna get its own number. Hang on.
Yes, that's better.
Yeah,
Those need to stay.
Yeah, that's
under-
better.
Also.
We can
Well,
mirror
you
it,
guys-
it's fine.
Yeah, we
can
just don't-
mirror it.
Yeah,
Just have
okay.
them on our end.
Yeah, some of the sharing. Sharing is caring.
Alright. So question mark, SharePoint or other shared drive.
Yeah, does the town have a drive that they can allow restricted access to committee members so that we can?
You must get that with your email. You don't get it to, we have the Google Drive side where we're different. But with your .gov, you must get it, your email address.
I mean,
I'm gonna find out.
Well, what is it, OneDrive or whatever, or something like that? Yeah,
For the
Microsoft.
time being, yeah, so for the time.
Yeah, I
being,
mean, we have a town OneDrive, I know that, but as far as a compartmented and.
Yeah, I don't want access to town side, but we just need a network drive that we can create subfolders in that we can use as an organizational structure for file sharing and file retention.
Yeah, I think it is Microsoft's proxy share phone.
Yeah, I'll just have to see within our, because I have to be within our security thing, and it also has to meet our FOIA legal obligations and stuff, so. I gotta do a little homework.
Yeah, and again, we will distribute it by email for the time being for our next meeting. We'll follow up with how we do that, but this, these are things we should start thinking about now.
That's Phil, that's it, so you don't have to.
Okay, Phil's gonna do number 8.
At some point, we should talk about an SBC post social media presence, just a page where the SBC can, instead of it being personal responses, the SBC is able to receive comments or be tagged perhaps, to provide links to direct answers in the various Wellington groups. I'm not saying we need to do that, posing this question. Because that was another thing that came up. We didn't have active social media, or we didn't have an effective approach. The prior committee didn't have an effective approach to social media outreach and correspondence, and it proved confusing. I can scroll up on my notes to find where I wrote that, but.
I think we want to keep this positive as possible
Yep.
too.
I just wanted the committee to be able to be as responsive as many forums as possible, and that is a big one for this community.
Did we have one last time? I thought we had one, but it was one direction.
To remind about meetings and things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the postings from last time that went on to like certain portions, but I thought we had our own just to push out information. It wasn't to answer questions.
And that's
because
that's
you're-
advantageous too. So if that was the case, that's probably gone in the jettisoning of all of Willington's Facebook groups recently.
We're just gonna look on. It's gonna look also.
Second tier question. It's a second tier concern. We can address it at a later date. The other big one, I think, the only last thing that gives me agita on the schedule is property search for any potential. And that is a big one, because I know how quickly that can eat up time. And getting a jump on that quickly, and this is where I'm gonna look at Jeremy, because I know he's on planning and zoning commission. And is in close proximity to Mike D'Amato and a land use office.
I can, yeah. See.
So we're not starting necessarily from scratch, but I think we need to start the conversation with Mike so that we can have a deeper discussion about what research is available for at the next meeting. He obviously evaluated, was assisted the prior committee. We have that prior property evaluation. Those may or may not still be valid. I think
Most of them would be still accurate. There hasn't been a lot of change in like subdivision or anything, but the big thing I think we've talked about in many venues is that we didn't consider parcels of land that had any building occupying them because we assumed they would be less likely available to us. And so maybe that was missing an opportunity. And so
contiguous parcels too, meaning.
yeah, and that's harder. That's harder because it's a hard search criteria. Where you can do acreage pretty easily.
It would have to be abutted by same owner. I think it would be too convoluted to get to a point where we could get anywhere, but.
19 acres. Does it have to?
I was just gonna ask,
Yeah.
what's your minimum size? I mean.
At 519, it's gonna be a greater acreage. It's 100, I think it's gonna be.
Last time.
Or 19, I think it's gonna be 20 and change, 20.2. We'll nail that down.
We're just gonna go 24.
It was 19.2 before. It's an extra acre for every 100 students in. For OSCP, space guide.
Depending on the,
Plus for middle school, so we had based it on 19.2, it was 15 start plus 100 for every 100 students, an acre for every 100 students.
Yeah.
That's the 19.2.
You're sounds familiar.
We're at 519, so it's 20.2. If we can refine that, I think, but that's your operating guidelines in the neighborhood of 28 usable
20
acres.
plus.
Or 2 abutting 10, 11.
Yeah, that's where
That's where, yeah.
it's a little more challenging, yeah.
Hard to do that, yeah.
But which is why I think we, at least that initial evaluation, Mike can say if he's aware of anything that, we might have missed.
And by considering, the Hall School parcel was talked to some extent in the last time, but mostly on the idea of renovation or addition of the Hall School building. If we're
What's the parcel
putting,
size?
that is smaller. That is, I don't remember what's the number of
what's
the.
the
It's 14.
Yeah,
It's 14.
14.
You can do it there.
So you could also be looking at that parcel as a new school on that parcel. And, and then as we have talked, and we don't have time to deal with this tonight, but we've talked about what happens with all school. And one of the advantages, of course, if you're looking at parcels that have buildings on them and you consider that parcel to put a new school on, you get to use the Hall School while you're building the new school, as opposed to renovating, needing swing space. So if you built on the parcel elsewhere, you can keep using Hall School for education for that 20 months. Is it 20 months probably for a school?
Whatever it may be, yeah.
And then the demolition, if that is the choice, can be covered in the cost of the project and reimbursement. If you build elsewhere, then we have to think of what do we do with high school.
Yep.
So that's another way you're gonna have to look at this.
Just so goal being to, I think early on, broadcasting as wide a net as possible so that we aren't missing things and then refining. The Hall School site is definitely one, but we do need to have something for consideration, at least early on, as to whether a new site is viable. Is that will change the work product we're asking you? Our consultant.
Is there adjacent land on the Wall property that?
I don't. The only thing is that gravel.
Maybe there's a hole in there, is nearby.
On the, there was a parcel on the side of the.
On the south side.
On the side where,
The lock and stock.
yes, Lockenstein. So I don't know if somebody bought that recently because there was some activity over there, but.
But the sign,
A real
there's
estate
still a
agent.
sign still there.
Yeah, a real estate agent bought it as an investment, put it right back on the market.
Okay, so that, Not the one that's
Street
across the
parcels.
street, not across the street, but the one that's in between Stock and the school.
In this, there's a house and stock and line, there's a right of way there. I think.
Yes.
In between the house and Cable Technologies is where, right across from Batty Road.
Yeah, I know there's that.
It
that
goes
one there.
in and that goes back all the way around.
Yeah.
All the way to the
It's
river.
three parcels all together and it comes around behind Stock and Lock
Okay.
and abuts the school.
Lower field.
Okay, yeah, because there was some parcels there, so.
It doesn't actually touch the school.
There's a Willington open space parcel in between. It's a tiny little parcel behind Stock and Line.
I thought that was just a right of way.
No,
Okay,
there's
we
a little
won't
tiny-
debate that.
I don't wanna get into.
If you ask Evelyn in the land use office, she has done this search 1,000 times.
Okay.
And you can give her whatever parameters and she'll say, yeah, that's a lovely site, but it's on a cliff, which is most Willington.
Well,
And then
again,
second, then she can look at wetlands and she'll rule out sites. So your list very quickly shrinks down. Looking at, but she's only looked at open lots, not with buildings on them.
The whole site wasn't. Did you look at increase? I can't remember whether you evaluated increasing the land in the town hall, if there was any opportunity in the prior SBC.
There was very minimal discussion about that, and there was also a little bit of, we did do a test fit on the property, which did a presumption of what last possible square inches you could squeeze out of the property without like going over the hill into the river and the Wilmette River and all that. Including discussion about aligning the levels of the different fields so that you could get maximum use of the property.
So that's initial discussion, Jeremy, just so that we can have some sort of
That was renovation addition.
this is gonna take a couple of meetings, but.
That was renovation addition, yes.
Yeah.
Get Mike engaged. We're gonna make a habit of not doing this in future meetings, but I know you were on
The previous
also Board of Selectmen.
If Jeremy wants to list the properties that I researched when I was on SBC, I have a spreadsheet with all the information on it that I can share.
So again, for optics, let's do things through the system.
Correct. So if you send that when we have an SBC.
Website or email.
Website up, if you share that, we can relay that for evaluation with Mike D'Amato through land use, this was sent in for possible consideration. It's a reference point, but I think it's welcome.
And Phil, you have records, right?
The last school building committee has.
It's in.
I wasn't on that committee. He was on that committee. You were on that committee and somebody else was on the committee. And you came up with, I think, only 3 properties.
I think I have access to those. I think I saved those files.
If you want that stuff, it's in a folder someplace in my Google Drive.
I think that would be a good start. We'll share, so I'll make.
Well, and some of it is on the drive.
Yeah.
Some of it is. on the website.
You're right, it's on the website.
It's on the website. The land evaluation's on the website for the prior. SBC.
Sorry, is the land evaluation, I mean, we did recently receive an email about this. What version of that did we get? I just want to make sure that we're all looking at one list. And I mean, it sounds like Ralph had a list. I know that we received in one of our emails, we received a list of properties. I don't know when that list of properties was generated. It sounds like this list has been regenerated multiple times. I just want to make sure we're.
You did not receive an email from the town recently that had a list of properties. The ones we sent out had the link to the webpage.
Yeah, so.
But not the list of properties.
Oh, okay. So that's very possible that I was looking at the webpage and grabbing the list off of there. So maybe what's on the webpage isn't most up to date. I know this is like
That's from the previous committee, so it was a document stopped in time when the previous committee used it as a working document.
So we should, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't have that list out there. I don't know. Maybe that, this has been such a point of contention that I want to make sure we work from one list and it's just very, very clear how these decisions were made. And then we don't have multiple channels and multiple lists and multiple people generating lists.
So that's what I'm hoping Jeremy starts to build for us. We have as a reference as a guide, because that work was done, but evaluations kind of need to start from scratch.
There could be new properties that came for sale too. Right.
Correct, so we're doing a search, but we also have that
Or available.
historical knowledge saying we should look at these also, and as a part of our new search.
I mean, maybe before we send the mailer though, I mean, I don't know, and I don't know if this is even an option, maybe we, I don't know, remove or make sure it's like very clear that the list that's currently on the website has been archived or dated in some way so people don't go to that and look at it like I did.
It's in old SBC and it has a date on it too, I think.
So Lisa, once we transition the file storage to the town's website under the SBC page, there won't be a direct, I mean, the prior committee work will be hosted on the Board of Ed page still, like that.
Well, I mean, I'm not. Let's have some discussion about this. I'm not, at least initially, excited about the idea of starting to remove access to things. Because I think that could also lead to a transparency
I
question.
agree, I'm not removing access, I'm just saying that defined for a school building committee is its own. It's
Right.
already its own page, its own entity.
I think we want some sort of balance between transparency and not creating confusion. So, I mean, I agree, it sounds like a good idea to, continue to make these things available, but make it very clear that, and maybe it's fine, but I mean, I myself got, I got myself confused with it. Just that, like, we're no longer going to be referring to that list. There's these other lists that are out there, but we're only, we're going to be proceeding with one list, and here's, letting people know exactly how it was generated.
So maybe we should try to figure out the best way to label that and maybe even move the button to a place that's further away on that main page that says like archived previous school building or something that makes it more obvious.
I mean, the other thing that can happen is we could maybe watermark the documents or something just to make it very obvious that this is from the old committee.
Or you watermark new ones, so it's clear that this is a new committee stuff.
Yeah, I think for legal reasons, we don't modify the previous documents. I don't think we watermark them.
So I think there's gonna be a natural delineation here. If we're hosting this committee's work on the town's website. That is this committee's work product. Everything else is prior, and it was hosted through a separate link on the Board of Ed.
So if you decide to use it, you pull it to the town site.
Correct, and if it's referenced as historical information for any of our subjects, we can pull it in as a reference document for this committee directly.
As a point of confusion, potentially though, I do think we should label the documents that we have, which committee they're from, 2025. Every time. Yeah, 2025, 2026, So
if it's not dated, the committee should be right. Well,
so in other words, all the file names should have a standard nomenclature.
SBC 2025.
yes, and then probably
SBC 2025.
like our schedule here. 2025, 2026, SBC list. So, or this QAM stuff, so we know where.
Yep.
We will have confusion. People are like, oh, these numbers or whatever, and.
Yeah, so we will make this document organization is gonna be a critical part of this, so we will. It'll be an improvement, we'll gradually as we go as well, but we're just getting started.
Yes,
so good things ahead.
I'll think through ways that we can do that and certainly submit suggestions to the chair on how we might make that clear as we figure out the new website. Because I do definitely want to support less confusion. I don't want to be in a position where people say you're trying to hide documents or limit access or anything like that, and so.
Understood. And good point, Phil. All right, are we tired of sitting in these chairs, or do we have any other tasks that people want to take on?
But I do have the one thing that we need to get the Hall Foundation involved.
Oh, yes,
not on the agenda. I don't think we should talk long about it, but that is, we're way down the road on that. And I was hoping to have it tonight.
I will make it a point on our next agenda to have a current status review of the Hall site discussions. Mike, if you could also distribute any relevant correspondence you've had, particularly related to reimbursement rates or critical things that the committee may need to see related to confirming reimbursement rates. Any of that correspondence you've had in the lead up prior to this, that would be advantageous.
10.
Hopefully it's just an email search.
Cheaper than it doesn't.
It's only about 90 weeks to, only about 90 weeks to go. Let's see. I don't need a dozen.
It's
Okay, so,
As you
emails regarding the reimbursement rate, the confirmation email.
confirmation,
And
yeah.
send out a confirmation.
Any, I don't know what discussions you've had, but any relevant critical conversations confirming reimbursement rate.
It's all in that, it's in that confirmation email, it's all.
And we have details on the specifics of what.
What reimbursement rate?
For what criteria is needed.
Yes.
Because I was looking for that in the state website, and I could not find it. It might be there somewhere, but I could not find it.
What are you looking for?
The reimbursement rate, because I found like a table on it that had like the towns but our specific scenario with our specific requirements.
So it's so our
Legislation.
special hire rate is legislation. I was in this, I have it saved somewhere. I will distribute that to the committee because it's not on it's obviously not been distributed yet. It's publicly available, but you gotta know the House bill number and.
Okay, because I was thinking.
We should just pull that to the PDF and drop it off.
Yes, correct.
In the meantime, you could watch the recording of the meeting with all of the different boards together, and Tammy and Jeff were both there.
The one
Yeah.
at Hall School.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, there's, I know there's numbers there, but we've had different numbers quoted, so we had the actual state language and we could read through it, I guess.
So there's a bunch, it's in that one omnibus bill, basically, but there's a dedicated special reimbursement rate for Willington of the 80% base, but then there's other legislation within that allow for supplemental reimbursement.
Yeah, so that,
It's all part of that one
okay,
bill, I believe, correct? Right, it's all one spot.
I think we only did.
Yeah, so if we don't have that, we will distribute that. I think that's a relevant reference document to put on the page too, so. I did download it.
Tell people what page to go to.
Yeah, correct.
It's a big chunk. Or excerpt. Excerpt, yeah.
You have to post the next agenda by next Thursday.
So, yes.
And so if anybody wants, should people just email you if they're wanting to make sure, have an item on the agendas that you're here for Colby?
So to the greatest extent possible, well, agendas will be posted by Thursday prior.
Say that again?
Before end of day, right?
Yeah, they have to
The time
make
frame
it.
that counts, it's the Thursday and Monday counts as this 48 for a Zoom link posting, or do we? Okay,
Yeah, Thursday, before 4 o'clock, because the clerk's office closes at 4.
I haven't straddled the weekend on these yet, so thank you for the reminder.
Well, and you have, plus, keep in mind, like this coming week, we have the Monday
Monday
holiday.
That's what I'm
So when
saying.
you have situations like that, you have to be even more conscious of your schedule.
And this is abbreviated time to if we push this back, so there. I will have agendas out, or agendas will need to be out the Thursday before our Monday meetings. So any requests for agenda items, yes, by end of day Wednesday, proceeding. If it doesn't come up in conversation naturally, anytime before that, but that is really where we're kind of finalizing the agenda, so I can push it out to the clerk's office that Thursday. Following that, I will endeavor my very best to have any pre-read stuff to you all by end of day Friday, so you at least have the weekend leading up to Monday night's meeting to review any documentation. If I can send it along with. If I can send it along with the meeting agendas on Thursday, that'll be great, but we all know how these things go, so, but to the greatest extent possible, I will make a commitment to get you guys stuff up right.
Please do.
I know. All right.
I will try as much as I can to get through these 10 things on Tuesday.
Forward progress so that we can have productive discussions at the next meeting is all we're asking for. I think some of these we're needing to work through, but thank you all for humoring talking about them all now at Marathon. And really going full speed.
Is the public able to speak since the public was able to, there was members that?
There is no present to speak at the end of this agenda and it's a special meeting, so.
I understand, but you did let somebody from the public speak, so just to point out
in case there's a FOIA complaint.
I allowed Mr. Toulis.
Correct. You're allowed, you're supposed to allow others, but I'll file.
For technical clarification, the board chair or the board may call on anyone, they have discretion to call on anyone in the room if they believe they have information germane to the conversation.
He was never called on. He spoke first.
But then
Then I'll file a complaint. That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I allowed.
I'll file a complaint.
Mr. Toulis asked in his role as a selectman to provide context, and I allowed it as at my discretion as the board chair. So that is where that stands.
He's supposed to. I'll take care of it.
Do you have something to say?
I have many things, yeah.
So with that said, do we have any other task assignments under the current item that the committee is discussing? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have a second? All right, seconded by, you can't second that. Sorry.
Gotta make
Here we
an
go.
amendment on there.
Seconded by Adam. And so motion to adjourn at 8:46 PM. All those in favor say aye. Say it out loud, Adam.
Aye. Sorry.
All right, aye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the other.